Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here bright and early. It's sunny this Saturday morning for us to hold our October hybrid meeting. So I want to welcome you. And before we begin our work, very important work for the day, I ask you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before I continue with some of our administrative remarks, we're going to roll the video to have a reminder about some of the aspects of participating in our meeting. So Matt, roll the video.
Welcome to the New York State Bar Association's House of Delegates meeting. Before we begin, just a few quick reminders for our delegates who are participating remotely. Please be sure to check that your full name appears as it is supposed to in your profile. If called upon, all comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are attending the meeting virtually, please note that you will be muted during the meeting. If you wish to speak, please use the raise hand feature. Use the raise hand feature to advance and second a motion to approve a report or to indicate that you wish to speak. When voting, a poll box will appear on your screen. Please identify your vote at that time. For those of you here in person, you will be asked to indicate your vote by a show of hands. If you abstain from a vote, you must send a separate email to the New York State Bar Association so she can document your abstention accordingly. Chat feature will be disabled for this meeting and for future House of Delegates meetings. Motions made from the floor during the meeting must be typed out using the Q&A feature. As previously mentioned, be sure to use the raise hand feature to advance and second a motion. If you are attending virtually and are chosen to speak, remember to turn on your camera and unmute yourself. We cannot guarantee that every person wishing to speak will have the opportunity to do so. We thank you for your patience and understanding. Thank you.
So we thank John Gross for those comments, and we'll thank him again in person when he presents later on this afternoon. And so now I have some additional notes for everyone as it relates to the meeting, just to add on to what John had in the video. One, there have been some updates to the materials, so you can go online and take a look and find those updated materials. And those materials will also be available to you at the conclusion of the meeting. If you have not done so already, a little visual, remember this card, please complete it because this is how we know you attended the meeting. And after the meeting, please make sure to take it upstairs and give it to Melissa O'Clair or whoever else is sitting upstairs in the reception area. For our remote attendees, your attendance is recorded by Zoom, so you don't have to do anything additional in order to let us know that you're here. If you are attending in person, there are 2 microphones. There's one in this middle aisle and there's one off to the right. So if you wish to speak, please come up to either of those microphones. Please state your name and your affiliation, and then you will have a certain amount of time to speak, which is 3 minutes. Whether you're on the phone or you're in person, you have the same amount of time. And if I notify you that your time is expired, please end your remarks. And my comments are in no reflection of whether you're speaking for or against of something. As the person in charge of keeping the meeting on time, I just want to make sure that everyone has their say and we get through the materials in a timely fashion. Any questions to a presenter or otherwise should be directed to me as the chair of the meeting, and then we can proceed. Delegates should refrain from any procedural motions until substantive discussion is done. So we want to make sure that our presenters have given the information, and if there's any substantive comments, and then we'll proceed with any procedural motions. In this regard, a delegate may rise to speak to the motion on the floor and advise me that they intend to make a procedural motion at the appropriate time, and I will recognize you to make that motion. All presenters and delegates who rise to speak will be treated with collegiality and respect by all members of the House. And so now we will proceed with our business. And so the first action is the meeting minutes. And unless there are any corrections, amendments, or objections, All right. Greg has shook his head to say no. The minutes of the June 7th, 2025 meeting will be accepted as distributed. All right. Not hearing anything, the minutes are approved. Now let's move on to our next item on the agenda. Okay, here she is. So at this point, we are going to ask past president and chair of the nominating committee, Sherry Levin Wallach, to present us with a report from the nominating committee. Sherry.
Good morning, everybody. There we go. The nominating committee submits nominations of candidates for all officers required by Article 11 of the bylaws to be filed by election at each annual meeting or at the meeting of the House of Delegates immediately following each annual meeting. The individuals nominated are for President-elect, Michelle H. Wildegruby. For Secretary, Thomas J. Maroney. For Treasurer, Susan L. Harper. The Vice Presidents nominated are, for the First District, Adrian Beth Koch, Diana S. Sen. For the Second District, Amy L. Richter. For the Third District, Matthew Gressimer. The Fourth District remains vacant at this moment as Michelle Wildegruby was now elected to the position of president-elect. Fifth District is Donald C. Dorr. The Sixth District is Dawn Joyce Lanuette. The Seventh District is John P. Getz. The Eighth District is Norman P. Effman. Ninth District, the Honorable Kerry A. Fiore. 10th District, Justin M. Block. The 11th District, Frank Bruno. The 12th District, Hugh W. Campbell. The 13th District, Sheila T. McKinn. Elected to the House of Delegates are the following representatives. From the 1st District, David M. Cohn, Susan B. Lindenauer, Kaylin L. Whittingham. For the 2nd District, the Honorable Barry Cammons, the Honorable Joanne Quinones, the Honorable Cheryl Chambers. For the 3rd District, Jeannie Soufflet, Albert C. Hrdlicka, and Kaylin Connors Brennan. For the 4th District, Connor Julius Rail and Cynthia F. Feathers, Marnie L. Onderdonk. For the 5th District, Carl E. Mann, the Honorable James Murphy, the Honorable Stacy Dennis Taylor. For the 6th District, Rachel Ellen Miller, Adam J. Spence, Alicia Christine Rohan. For the 7th District, Eileen E. Boholtz, Kimberly Fox Dugay, and Sarir Fazili. For the 8th District, Karen L. Nicholson, Craig R. Buckeye, Andrew M. Debbins. For the 9th District, David Evan Marcus, Lori A. Dorsenville, and Andrea C. Soto. For the 10th District, the Honorable John J. Leo, Peter H. Levy, and Peter J. Mancuso. For the 11th District, Alyssa Eisner, the Honorable Sharifa Molina Nassar Kular, and Desiree Marie Claudio. For the 12th District, Michael F. Daly, Paul S. London, Yana A. Roy. For the 13th District, Karen B. Soren, Catherine F. Chavon, and the Honorable Allison Hamagian. The Executive Committee members at large are as follows. For 2-year terms starting June 1st, 2026 to May 31st, 2028, Jacqueline Drohan, Andre R. Joglum, Leah Noratowski, Alyssa Zuckerman, and the diversity seat, Vincent Chang. The section member at large to the Executive Committee for a 2-year term from June 1st, 2026 to May 31st, 2028, Barry Skildensky. The delegates to the American Bar Association House of Delegates for the 26-28 term are T. Andrew Brown of Rochester, Henry M. Greenberg of Albany, Richard C. Lewis of Binghamton, Kathleen M. Sweet of Buffalo, and Michelle Ridgegruby of Albany. The 2026-2027 nominating committee members at large are Dominic Napolitano, Sherry Levin Wallach, and T. Andrew Brown as an alternate. And the 2026-2027 nominating committee chair is Richard C. Lewis. On behalf of the nominating committee, I would like to submit nominations for officers and member at large of the executive committee. These nominations were made in compliance with the association's procedures. Beginning in June, we issued requests for candidate applications to all New York State Bar Association members. During the fall, we evaluated the candidates' applications, and in September and October, we interviewed the candidates at meetings. In October, we voted on the candidates. Sorry, in November, we voted on the candidate. October, we're in October. I'm used to this meeting being in November. You guys tricked me. In October, we voted on the candidates and prepared our committee's report. Thank you to the nominating committee for its efforts and the candidates for their participation in the process.
Thank you, Sherry, for that report. Can everyone hear me? People in the far part of the room, can you hear me? Do I need to speak louder? Okay, all right, I will speak louder. Apologies for that earlier. All right, so now let's proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is our report from the treasurer. So I ask Ms. Susan Harper to please deliver her report. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Oh, it's not on? You can hear me. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So today I will report on the financial operations of the New York State Bar as of September 30th, 2025, provide an overview of membership revenue and CLE as of September 30th, 2025. We're going to talk a little bit about deferred dues and how that impacts our New York State Bar statements. We're going to share some good news about our new media partner, and we're going to talk just really briefly about our last 67 days of the year and how you can help us improve the bottom line of this association. So let's begin. We're going to begin with our operating results as of September 30th. I'm pleased to report that as of September 30th, our revenues are $18.2 million and our expenses are $15 million. Compared to last year at this time, our revenues were $891,000 higher and our expenses are $1 million lower. The difference in expenses are due to several different things: the timing of our section meetings, some salary savings due to medical leaves and unfulfilled positions, and a partnership conference that we host every other year. So it did not occur in this year. And so some of these expenses will now be reflected on our October statements, so you'll look out for that. So dues and CLE revenue, our sections received $164,000 more in royalties dues this year than last year. The association was able to collect $10.3 million in general New York State Bar dues as the end of September. Compared to last year at this time, membership dues are $2 million higher. On the good news is that CLE has exceeded their 2025 income budget by $325,000. This is due to our virtual Bridging the Gap program, which has been making around $30,000 a month, as well as income from our International Estate Planning Institute. I do want to point out that due to a rule change now that Bridging the Gap program is required to be in person, so that number will likely change next year. As well as the International State Planning Program, we had a partnership, and now we are no longer working with that particular group, and so we will be working on that on the future on our own. So publications have exceeded their budget by $119,000. This is due to the sale of hard copy books. It's good to know that people are still reading books. Congratulations to Kathy Sahusky and her staff. We really appreciate all your hard work. You can see all your efforts have really paid off. Thank you to all of you. So overall, our revenue line items are adding to our strong financial stability, which indicate that our membership model so far is performing well as of September 30th, 2025. So I want to congratulate Pam McDevitt, as well as Pat Stockley, our membership chair, Gerard McGreevy, our membership strategist, Stephanie Markowitz in marketing, as well as Tony Kowalik in IT, as well as our membership chairs for all their efforts. We're now going to turn to deferred dues. I just hope everybody takes a look at your at House item number 4, especially we're going to take a look at the back of our document here. So during our April meeting, I was asked by one of our members of our House, some information concerning deferred dues. And as we've changed our dues from calendar to anniversary, I wanted to take a moment to review how these changes are reflected in our statements and how we should review the statement to help us meet our fiduciary responsibility. So deferred dues represent membership income received in advance for services or benefits that will be delivered over time. As shared by our Chief of Finance, in accrual accounting, dues revenue is recognized as it is earned, not when the cash is received. So for example, if a member pays $395.40 in October for a one-year membership, 3 months is recognized, or $98.85 in 2025, and then the balance is deferred into 2026. Under our old model, the dues amount was recognized in October when received. So as we've discussed before, with this new membership model, cash collection was intended to be evenly spread across the months as more members sign up for monthly payments, the auto renew, providing monthly cash flow and versus a one-time bulk of membership dues income. So now looking at the New York State Bar financial statements, so what does this mean? So in your materials, as I mentioned, you have the New York State Bar financial statements. I would like to reference the first 3 pages. You look at this slide, which is in your materials too. On our operating budget, you'll notice that membership dues lines shows $8.5 million. And it's easier to probably see it on your handout. $8.5 million in recognized revenue and 2 lines for deferred. So we have already received $2.4 million in deferred revenue visible on page 2 balance sheet, which splits into $1.8 million that will be recognized by the end of 2025, and $646,000 will be recognized in 2026. So recognized revenue as of September 30th, 2025, which excludes the deferred dues, has already surpassed 2024 recognized revenue by $132,000. I know that was a lot to go through, and that was really into the weeds, and that's why I asked for us to make sure that we're including this slide in your materials, so that way you could just walk through it and to help you, be able to understand our new statements. So now we're going to move on to slide 7. We're happy to announce our new partnership with AMG. So while our dues memberships is going well, the reality is that expenses rise and fall, and we need to continue to expand our revenue streams beyond membership dues. So that's why we're excited to partner with Association Media Group. With their specialization in association advertising, exhibit, sponsorship, sales, AMG will help us unlock new revenue streams. So AMG will be replacing MCI. You've probably heard me mention MCI before in the past, and they're going to be charging a lower fees by approximately 15%. So our agreement started with them as of September 1st, 2025, and we look forward to reporting on non-dues revenue streams in 2026. And I want to thank Pat Stockley, who is our head of membership, for all of her hard work in leading that effort. And finally, we're going to go to our last slide, slide 8. So now we have only 67 days left. And as we approach the year end, the New York State Bar Finance Department will have a preliminary audit in November and will be working hard to close the books for the year. And I also wanted to use this opportunity to talk about what else could we do in order to help our association. We've had so many wonderful programs this past year. There have been wonderful destination meetings and online CLE programs, and everybody has been working hard on the new membership model. So first, if you may recall, President Sweet put out a call to all of us about a challenge to bring in one member. And so by the end of this year, we still have 67 days for each one of us to bring in a member and pull in a member. Long-term planning for our sections and committee leaders, just to remind you to plan way ahead, because it does help us secure the best prices, the best deals, and to also spot any issues before they creep up. And then finally, our 150th anniversary and gala, sponsor a table, annual exhibit, the sections, and to advertise in our publications too. So shortly, you're going to be hearing from Michael McNamara, the head of our Finance Committee, when he presents our 2026 budget. And I want to commend him and the entire finance team for all their hard work. We have an enormous 150-year legacy to honor by supporting our current and future fellow attorneys in the rule of law and the legal profession. And all of this is possible with your support individually, as well as members of this governing body. And I want to thank each and every one of you and our staff, our team, our finance team, for all their hard work. And I look forward to seeing you in January 15th at our annual meeting. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions from anyone on the Zoom? Okay, I don't see anyone in the audience. Nope. Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
And our next item on the agenda is to be a special presentation by the Honorable Gerald J. Whalen, who is the presiding justice of the Appellate Division, 4th Department. We welcome the opportunity to regularly hear from our presiding justices to get updates on the work that they're doing in their particular areas, as well as what's happening around the state, and the work with us toward the common good. And so at this point, is he via Zoom or is he, I'm sorry? He's not online, so he should be here. Okay, so he's coming via Zoom. Okay, so we will put that to the side for a moment. Let us skip to the next presentation, which Susan had already segued earlier. We asked Michael McNamara, our Finance Committee Chair, to come up and present the budget. And as he's coming to the podium, I would like to say that pursuant to our bylaws, the House is required to approve each annual budget. And so that will be what the motion request will be after his presentation. Michael.
Thank you, Taya. Good morning. So on behalf of the Finance Committee, I'm here today to present the 2026 budget and to report on the financial condition of the association. This is the 5th time I've had the privilege of addressing the House as chair of the Finance Committee. This has been a different year. In past years, we were dealing with a lot of financial drama. COVID, the challenges of emerging from COVID, runaway inflation, interest rate hikes, gut-wrenching drops in the financial markets, and then followed by very costly renovations to this building, and the expense and uncertainty of launching an entirely new membership model. This year, at least from a financial perspective, was calmer. No major challenges or controversies, no extended market collapses, kind of boring, to be honest, which is exactly what you want to be able to say and what you want to hear in the financial report. We did have some excitement around Liberation Day in early April that resulted in a sharp market sell-off, which we thankfully ignored since markets surged afterwards. And there's been some volatility this month, China, Russia, Canada, but we ended Q3 with record balances in our investment portfolio And I think probably as of yesterday, although I didn't look, I think we're probably at all-time highs as of yesterday. From an operating standpoint, when we closed the books on our first full year with the new membership model for 2025, we expect to have a small budget surplus for the year, which is what we projected. Although we got there in a slightly different way than we expected, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Susan's already hinted at some of that. And the 2026 budget you're being asked to approve today is balanced, and it projects a small surplus of a little over $33,000. So bottom line, in terms of our overall financial condition, we're in a very strong position. So let's talk briefly about the 2026 budget. I think most of you know, many of you have been here in the past, so you know that months of effort go into the preparation of the budget. The work begins in May with the finance team, with Amira Rizvanovich and her finance team, Greg Matisse and Carly Keisler, and they assemble and review budget requests and information from every committee, every section, every department, and they put together a preliminary budget. And after that's assembled, the finance committee meets. We talk to department heads, we talk to key people in the organization. This year, some of the important topics, as you might imagine, were the new membership model, technology needs, which are increasing seemingly every year, and the plans for the annual meeting and the gala as we start to celebrate our 150th anniversary. That culminates in a 135-page draft budget, which the Finance Committee reviews in a true marathon session that went about 5 hours earlier this month, pretty much line by line. Consistent with past practice, we've given you highlights of the relevant financial information, and we spared you the rest. My thanks to everyone who's involved in the process, especially Amira and her team. This was a very difficult year from the standpoint of the finance team, even though it was a calm year in terms of the markets and in general for the Finance Committee, not so much for the finance team. We had the retirement of Chris O'Brien this year, so we had Amira stepping for the first time into those shoes full-time. And after all of the work that had been done on launching the model and all of the expenses of the renovations over the last year, there were significant audit issues that had to be worked through, and of course the transition to the new model. So they did an amazing job with all of that. Kudos to Amira, Greg, and Carly for all of your work. I also want to acknowledge and thank my fellow members of the Finance Committee who served in 2025, President Sweet, President-elect Grays, Treasurer Susan Harper, past presidents Dominic Napolitano and Dick Lewis, Tari Ann Pleat, Jackie Drohan, Drew Jaglam, the Honorable Cheryl Chambers, and Bob Schofield. It's a really good group. And the reality is, in even a relatively calm financial year, a lot's asked of the Finance Committee as we grapple with various issues involving investments and section finances, technology upgrades, and of course, the budget. So for 2026, as you can see, we are projecting a small surplus of $33,000. The most important line is really membership dues. You see the next slide? Okay. Given that our new model, you can see some of the things that we bundle here. It's membership and it's CLE and it's section membership and more. For our first full year with the new model, we projected total membership revenues of just under $13 million, with a little less than $1.1 million allocated to the sections as royalties, leaving $11.9 in membership dues. We expect that by year end, we'll collect a little over $12 million in total membership revenues. Net of the $1.2 million in royalties that were paid to the sections should leave us around $10.8 in membership dues, which is a little softer than we projected. Not very surprising, I don't think. As I said a year ago, with the launch of a new model, there were a lot more uncertainties than we've had in the past. And while a lot of time and thought went into the launch and the projection, the truth is we really had no way of predicting how well the model would be received by the membership. And our fingers were crossed to some degree. A couple of points are worth noting. Susan's talked to you about deferred dues. That played a role in some of the numbers. Another interesting thing about 2025 is that while our membership projection turned out to be a little optimistic, our budget projections for CLE and reference materials, books, turned out to be extremely conservative. So we assumed with the rollout of the new model, that people would just join as members if they wanted to take CLE, if they wanted access to reference materials. Surprisingly, you see the next screen? We expect to wind up, as Susan had indicated, about 50% higher on our CLE revenues than we projected, and about 5 times higher on reference materials and books. So when you net it all out, we expect to record a surplus on our operating budget for 2025 as projected. And as you can see from this screen, it narrows down the gap that we saw on the membership side. The membership department is hard at work, studying all of these developments, meeting regularly with the staff as well as with the finance department. And it certainly hasn't been a calm year for Pat Stockley and her team. For 2026, we're projecting total membership revenues of $12.3 million, up slightly from the projected year-end results in 2025, but lower than our 2025 projection. Turning to investments, the credit for the piggy bank and the umbrella goes entirely to Amira. That was her creation. The last 12 months have witnessed continued strong market performance, and our investment portfolio reflects that. Our long-term reserve fund, which is invested in a diversified portfolio of equities and fixed income managed by UBS and B of A, showed healthy growth. You can see the next screen. As you can see, from end of last year, 2024, we were at $36.4 million. We're now, as of the end of September, at $40.4, so up about $4 million. That was a high watermark for the long-term reserve fund. I actually think it's probably a little bit higher now. To put it in perspective, this balance is about 50% higher than at year-end 2019, right before COVID. So right before a lot of challenges for the association, a lot of investment in the building, and we're about 50% higher on our reserve fund. And we're nearly 4 times higher than at year-end 2008. Some of you will recall, we started using some of these figures. We look back a little bit, particularly in 2022, when we were kind of in a financial hurricane, and people were concerned. There were lots of losses being realized, markets were dropping, and people wondered, should we go to cash? Part of the reason for showing this was to show what the growth has been over time. And of course, at the end of 2008, it would have been a safe decision to go to cash. Thankfully, people did not do that. They stayed invested. And as you can see, we're about 4 times higher than we were at year-end 2008, illustrating the value of long-term investing, staying invested, not trying to market time, and a good reminder during times of market volatility. And of course, we have plenty of that, right? We're always a tweet away from some market volatility these days, right? So slide 9 shows a similar story for our Cromwell fund. We also have a general fund that includes accumulated funds from our operations. It's primarily invested in corporate bonds. Beginning in 2021, we had some significant operating surpluses because, of course, we weren't spending a lot of money, and we were still, thanks to CLE and other things, earning a lot of revenue. And a lot of those operating surpluses were put into the general fund, anticipating the building expenses, anticipating that we would have millions of dollars of expense. And before 2021, we expected to have the renovation and have to borrow money to pay for it. As it turned out, we didn't have to borrow any money, and we completed the renovations. Now, having put all the building expenses behind us, we have started to shift some of those fixed income assets to equities to bring our overall investable assets sort of in line with our investment targets. So in all, the assets managed by JP Morgan and UBS and B of A, you can see the next screen, okay, stood as of September 30 at 62.1 million, up from 57, almost 0.2, just a year ago. So, bottom line, we're in a very strong financial position. So as we close out 2025, I will say that the rainbow sort of worried me a little bit. A couple of years ago, some of you may remember if you were here, we showed the rainbow. There's a Katy Perry song called Firework, and it says, after a hurricane comes a rainbow. 2022 was definitely a hurricane, all right? 2023, we were hoping for a rainbow, but what I said in 2023 is we're really not quite there. Unfortunately, things didn't shake out quite that way. And of course, you know, my forebears are turning over wondering about this, right? You don't like to tempt fate, right? On the other hand, I thought, well, we should enjoy a moment. This is a moment. Things are really good from a financial position. And I was debating it, and I told the executive committee yesterday when I was driving up here, I hit exit 21A on the throughway, and I swear there was this big rainbow. It's a sign, right? That's got to be a sign. All right, so a few shout outs. Susan has already done some of this. I've talked about the finance team, did an amazing job. And Pat Stockley, Stephanie Markowitz, Gerard McAbee, there are many others, but they've worked incredibly hard on developing and launching our membership model, and they have been agonizing every day with it and looking at trends and trying to figure it out, and they've worked really hard on this. Tony Kowalik has done a great job of managing technologies. In the couple of years he's been with us, he's really done an amazing job for us. He gets a hard time from the Finance Committee all the time because we try to push back on the increasing expenses of technology, but he deals with it good-naturedly, and he's done a really great job for us. Kathy Sahusky, our CLE MVP, who continues to just be a jack of all trades, somebody who provides tremendous value to this association, plays so many roles so well. And Pam McDevitt, who foresaw the need for a virtual bar center before COVID, who was the driving force behind the new membership model, which was a courageous step. It was. Fingers were crossed. We weren't sure. It seemed like a great idea, but we weren't sure. And who works tirelessly to make this association the best bar association in the country. So please join me in thanking them for everything they've done, everything they do. So, Madam Chair, as a member of the House of Delegates, I hereby move the adoption of the 2026 budget.
Thank you, Michael. It has been moved and it has been seconded. So at this time, I'm going to ask if there are any questions. Okay. Well, please go to the podium if you have a question for the speaker. Okay. Anyone on Zoom has a question? Okay. Hearing no questions, before we proceed to the vote, I want to let you know that the Executive Committee endorsed the proposed 2026 budget for favorable action by the House. Okay, so at this time, all those in favor of the 2026 annual budget for the New York State Bar Association, please say aye. And can the poll go up as well, please? Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, it sounds like there was a no. Any abstentions? Okay, and on the screen, all right, looks like we have approval as well. So it is now approved. Motion carries.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. So earlier, we have been so efficient, we were ahead of schedule. And so the judge, did come on at the appointed time, but we got to him before he was able to join the Zoom. So at this point, we will return to that item on the agenda, and I now introduce the presiding justice, Whalen.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you, Judge Whalen. You may proceed with your remarks.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry, I just learned I'm late, but I'm not late.
You were not late. We were early, so we apologize.
No, that's quite all right. I should have logged on earlier. My apologies. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. It is wonderful to be finally checking this off my professional bucket list. In the past, on about 3 occasions, I was invited to attend your meeting to say a few words, but the invitation always fell in the middle of one of our court's terms. Our court terms is when we sit and hear cases in Rochester, and they're incredibly busy times for all the judges on our court, but especially busy for me. And my family, my wife, my kids have come to know that if they want me at family events, such as birthday parties, retirements, weddings, that those events need to be scheduled outside of term. So I wasn't able to accept the prior invitations to address the House of Delegates, and I very much regretted not being able to do so. Our president, Kathleen Sweet, my fellow Buffalonian, when confronted with my declination this year, because we are currently in term, offered this video appearance, and so here I am. I would be remiss if I didn't start by thanking President Sweet for inviting me to address you today and making the video option available. Thank you, Kathleen. Some of you might be asking why this appearance is on my professional bucket list. Well, besides the obvious, that is the honor of being asked to speak to such a prestigious group of lawyers, I would also add the ability to recognize the incredible work that has been done by the New York State Bar Association and the many, many committees and subcommittees throughout the years. I didn't really understand, frankly, the high level of contribution and the dedication and commitment that is needed to properly represent your Bar Association members, but to also contribute so significantly to the public good and public service. Unlike a lot of organizations whose sole purpose is to promote the interest, that is the financial interest, of their members, this organization always has the interests of the clients of your members and the general public, everyday citizens, firmly in mind when contemplating New York State Bar Association policies, positions, and actions. The incredible effort undertaken by your organization really came into focus for me when I became presiding justice of the Fourth Department in January of 2016, almost 10 years ago. As you know, the 5-person administrative board of the courts is made up of the chief judge and the 4 presiding justices of the various departments. As a member of the administrative board, I have seen firsthand the work undertaken by the various task force, committees, and subcommittees of NYSBA, and have come to highly value the comments, suggestions, and recommendations offered by the leadership and the many members of this organization. So thank you for the extraordinary amount of time you dedicate in an effort to make the practice of law such an honorable profession. I practiced law for 21 years before being elected to the court. Next year, I turn 70 and plan to retire from the bench. I look forward to rejoining your ranks as a lawyer and hope to contribute in some small way to the significant work your organization, our organization, continues to accomplish. Now, the topic I would like to briefly address this morning is one that the New York State Bar Association has studied and addressed head-on, which is the ongoing access to justice crisis in rural New York. The Fourth Department encompasses 22 counties across Western and Central New York, with a geographic area of well over 21,000 square miles and a total population of over 3.84 million people. This equates to a population density of about 178 people per square mile. This places the Fourth Department behind only the Third Department in terms of total geographic area and the sparsity of the population spread out across that area. Now, as you can imagine, with the sprawling geography of the Fourth Department, there is no shortage of rural areas and lightly populated counties that are predominantly rural. In fact, 17 of 22 counties of the Fourth Department qualify as rural, and each of those counties has fewer than 2 registered attorneys per 1,000 residents. Out of concern for the growing shortage of attorneys practicing in rural areas, this organization, your organization, created its Task Force on Rural Justice, which produced a report entitled Interventions to Ameliorate the Access to Justice Crisis in Rural New York. It was released in 2020. The report's findings were alarming. The task force found that roughly 96% of New York's licensed lawyers practiced in metropolitan areas, with the remaining 4% presumably serving New York's most rural geography. The report also brought to light that nearly 75% of current rural practitioners will be retiring in the next 10 to 30 years, with little to no new attorneys taking their places. In more general terms, the report found that rural practitioners were graying, that is, the white hair, the graying, and retiring at a far greater rate than they were being replaced by younger attorneys who were taking on the work of representing rural clients and setting up rural practices. The report's release in April of 2020 coincided with the height of the pandemic, which caused significant disruption, as we all know, in the facets of our lives, and surely delayed the implementation of solutions to the rural justice crisis, as we all grappled with the immediate health concerns of the pandemic. The task force report kindly blunted the panic that such statistics initially may have caused by including steps that the state, the courts, bar associations, attorneys, and law students could take to address the problem. As you are all aware, one of the most important changes identified in the report, which was deemed absolutely essential to making rural practice more attractive to young attorneys, was to increase the 18B pay rates for assigned counsel. They had been stuck at $75 per hour maximum statutory rate for nearly 2 decades. Thankfully, those rates were increased legislatively, as we all know, in 2023 to the current rate of $158 per hour. This state legislative action was a step in the right direction in making rural practice more economically feasible for young lawyers. The report, however, also suggested growing the pipeline of attorneys to rural communities. It is this suggestion and the efforts undertaken by the 3rd Department and now the 4th Department that I would like to focus on today. A model pilot project for growing the pipeline of younger attorneys in rural communities was begun in the 3rd Department in the summer of 2025 by my colleague, Presiding Justice Elizabeth Gary. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting PJ Gary, let me tell you that she is impressive. PJ Gary grew up in the farming life in a rural community. The crisis identified in the task force report was something PJ Gary was well aware of, and she seized on the opportunity to attempt to make a difference. The focus, energy, and drive of PJ Gary has brought to finding solutions to this problem is impressive. The Rural Pathways Program, as it's known, was an 8-week pilot program that took place this past summer. It placed 6 law students who had completed 1 or 2 years of law school in Otsego, St. Lawrence, and Clinton counties. These students were housed in local colleges and universities at highly affordable rates and spent time in a variety of rural legal settings during their placements. Over the course of the program, these students spent time in a new legal setting each week with several law firms and government entities, including local district attorney's offices, public defender's office, and the mental hygiene legal services offices, giving them opportunities to experience the practice of law and the environments of the practice of law firsthand. What they also did is they made sure that these students were engaged with the lawyers in a social setting, so that they encouraged the lawyers to take these students on trips, to have lunch with them, dinner with them, go to fairs, go to events, and in order to kind of bring them into the community, not just in a legal setting, but in a personal setting. And by seeing the success of the pilot program in the 3rd Department, the 4th Department is proud to be participating in the Rural Pathways Program this coming year. thanks in large part to the tireless efforts of Associate Justice Scott Del Conte, one of the members of our court. His home chambers are in Oswego County. The Rural Pathways Program will include 10 counties within the 4th Department for the summer of 2026. Justice Del Conte grew up in rural New York and as a child saw firsthand the life of a farmer. Justice Del Conte told me he realized at a relatively young age that in order to be able to afford to own and operate a farm, he felt he first needed to become a lawyer and a successful one at that. So he went to law school, practiced law, and then began a family farm. He and his wife and their kids ran the family farm as a family enterprise. And personally, I have trouble picturing a more healthy environment to raise a family. So when I asked Justice Del Conte to get involved in the Rural Pathways Program, he jumped at the chance and has embraced the project enthusiastically. In August, the New York State Unified Court System announced openings for the position of Rural Pathway Legal Intern, which provides a paid opportunity for law students to get hands-on legal experience and direct exposure to rural legal practice by rotating through multiple courts and legal offices in rural counties and to gain insight into an array of rural legal practices. Next summer program will run from early June through early August. The 4th Department counties of Allegheny, Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, Herkimer, Jefferson, Lewis, Livingston, Oneida, Oswego, and Steuben are all included as targets for the program. In my view, this represents a significant step in the right direction when it comes to increasing our roster of rural attorneys. While the current shortage of rural attorneys is a problem that will require a wide array of tools to ultimately solve, I am confident that the actions taken by the Unified Court System, the Honorable Rowan Wilson, our Chief Judge, and the Honorable Joseph Zayas, our Chief Administrative Judge, together with the leadership of the appellate divisions of the 3rd and 4th Department in identifying, funding, and ultimately implementing solutions to this problem will make a difference. It is no small matter that the New York State Bar Association continues to identify and study issues like rural justice, to gather the expertise to quantify the extent of the problem, and to identify workable solutions that can be implemented in partnership with the courts to address some of our most vexing and seemingly intractable issues. I believe the continued expansion of the Rural Pathways Program in the coming years will go a long way in increasing the pipeline to rural practice in New York State and will serve as a model for other states confronting similar challenges. I want to encourage those in attendance here today to explore ways that you, your firms, your agencies, your employers, and your colleagues can assist with the expansion of the Rural Pathways Program and others like it to assist in addressing the rural attorney shortage, which will take an all-hands-on-deck approach to overcome. Thanks again to our honorable body. Thanks again to this honorable body for the opportunity to speak to you today and to report on just one of the ways we are making progress in our effort to ameliorate the access to justice crisis in rural New York. Thank you.
Your bucket list. All right,
I
so-
just, you broke out on me for just a minute. All I heard was bucket list, but
I said, thank you for allowing us to have you check off one more thing on your bucket list.
yes, yeah, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, folks.
All right,
Have a
have a
great
good day.
Have a great meeting.
So we will now proceed to the order on the agenda now. So we will have our esteemed Madam President, Kathleen Marie Sweet, deliver her report.
I mean, what's the point of having that function unless you're going to use it, right? Dear colleagues, please allow me to report briefly on the association's recent activities. We are collaborating with several organizations around the country in support of the rule of law and advocating to preserve and enhance access to justice. One example of this vital work is our advocacy to save funding for the Legal Services Corporation. The Trump administration's plans to zero out funding and shutter the Legal Services Corporation would deprive millions of Americans of their fundamental right to representation. This past summer, we worked with our congressional delegation on this very important issue. Representative Grace Meng, who sits on the House Appropriations Committee, spoke out urgently and eloquently against these cuts. I also want to thank the hundreds of New York State Bar Association members who took part in our letter writing campaign to Congress in our effort to save LSC. Given the threat to the Legal Services Corporation, funding for civil legal services at the state level has never been more important. It was my honor to sit on the panel of the Civil Legal Services hearing last month at the Court of Appeals, led by Chief Judge Rowan Wilson, who restated his commitment to state funding for civil legal services, including an allocation of $150 million, a $45 million increase from last year's budget. But the justice gap is still widening, and so we continue to lobby the state legislature and the governor to increase funding for critical programs. We've also been in close and frequent contact with the governor about our support for medical aid in dying. I'm very proud, as you know, of our advocacy on this important legislation, which is also endorsed by the Medical Society of the State of New York, the New York, he's taking my picture again, the New York Civil Liberties Union, the New York Nurses Association, and dozens of others. I've submitted written testimony to the State Standing Committee on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Disorders, outlining our support for the Treatment Court Expansion Act, which was detailed in our 2023 Task Force Report on Mental Health and Trauma-Informed Representation. I've also sent a letter to the governor advocating for a bill to reform New York State's correctional facilities in response to the increasing violence and preventable deaths. The bill includes 10 prison oversight and accountability recommendations that address systemic issues in the prison system here in New York. It has passed both the Assembly and the Senate, and it awaits the governor's signature. We've also continued to have significant influence within the American Bar Association. At its annual meeting in August, the ABA approved a resolution from us, the New York State Bar Association, and along with the ABA's own Standing Committee on Gun Violence. That resolution recommends laws requiring gun owners to report promptly when there are missing firearms. I specifically want to thank Margaret Finnerty, Peggy, there she is, the chair of our own task force on mass shootings and assault weapons, who personally addressed the ABA's House of Delegates on this very crucial matter. So thank you, Peggy. We have also reached out to media outlets to express our views on policy. In August, the Buffalo News published a column highlighting our task force work on medical aid in dying and our support for that legislation. And earlier this month, the national news outlet Bloomberg Law published an article we produced on how the president's installation of unvetted, unconfirmed U.S. attorneys violates the separation of powers. Unbelievably, members of the judiciary now face threats and violent rhetoric when their rulings and decisions do not align with the administration's goals. And there have been other assaults on the rule of law, the right to due process, on constitutional norms and institutions that we long took for granted and which have now been cast aside or steamrolled over. We as lawyers in the judiciary must hold the line, especially when Congress will not. It is therefore also more important than ever for our citizenry to be well informed. We here at the New York State Bar Association just last week, or actually earlier this week, hosted the Media Literacy Convocation. Panelists from all different constituencies offered insights and strategies to help students and teachers improve their ability to discern fact from disinformation. And I'd like to thank all the volunteers who participated in constructing, developing, delivering that important program. We are also addressing other issues of importance to the profession, and we will hear later this morning from several of them. We have an excellent report from our task force on opioid addiction. We'll hear from our Committee on Standards of Attorney Conduct. We also have an excellent report from our task force on ageism in the legal profession. Lastly, our Trusts and Estates Law section has recommendation for a legislative proposal to address the matter of proving a lost trust. And the reason we have such an impact in all these areas is because of the strength of our membership. We are now at over 50,000 members. And we can't take that for granted or coast. Just last week, for example, I attended a meeting of our international section where 30 different countries were represented and over 200 lawyers and judges attended. They want to be a part of the New York State Bar Association. We may take it for granted, but when I was in Germany at this international section meeting, dozens of lawyers from all over the world came up to me to thank me as the representative of the State Bar Association for their ability to connect with us and to connect with New York. It's so meaningful to them. Retaining and adding members is key to wielding the influence to combat threats to our judicial system and our democracy. And there's good news on that front as well. 27 of our 28 sections have experienced double-digit increases in membership over the past year. And CLE program registrations have also more than doubled. Our BizOps team, in collaboration with the Committee on AI and Emerging Technologies, is now developing a new technology solution that will enhance our association's existing member benefits. Apologies to past President Alka, but the working title is My NISBA AI. It will allow members to submit prompts that will return results through an online agent interface, which to the amateurs like myself, a chatbot that you can send a query to or type a query into in natural English language speak, which will return a result from across NISBA, from across our vast collection of content, across our ebooks, publications, CLEs, and other content. The AI tool will effectively sit on top of all of our stuff and allow members to use a query and access subject matter information and many other dimensions of what we offer. This tool will provide direct links to relevant documents or content responsive to the query and would be exclusive for use by New York State Bar Association members so that they have access to the highly vetted expert content and source material that we have. Members will be able to access the solution through their existing website interface. We're so excited about this project and hope to be able to bring this first of its kind solution for bar associations to our members this spring. We are most connected when we interact in person. No offense to all those people participating remotely. And our premier event for personal interaction is, of course, our annual meeting in January. We are now only 80 days away, and I'm very excited to see all of you at the Hilton Midtown to celebrate our 150th anniversary. Thousands of attorneys will be there, including experts from all over the country. In keeping with Justice Whalen's remarks, Justice Gary from the Third Department and her team will be hosting a table in the vendor's alley relative to the rural readiness of practitioners. Our presidential gala, the Bar Association prom, will take place on Thursday, January 15th, and we will present our most prestigious award, the gold medal, at the gala. Please buy your tickets and sponsor your tables before it sells out. I'm also very excited to tell you a little bit about the Presidential Summit. which will take place on Wednesday, the 14th. I think this will be a must-attend event. Pulitzer Prize-winning Stanford historian Jack Rakov and Yale University Law School Rule of Law Clinic Director Sonia Mittal will lead us in an important conversation about the state of our Constitution, its fragility, and our democracy. Television anchor, author, and commentator Lawrence O'Donnell will be moderating the discussion. In closing, while the challenges are many and can seem daunting, we are doing our part. I realize the rule of law cannot defend itself. It does require all of us, but as importantly, it requires something from each of us. I do respect and appreciate the advice I frequently receive from many of you, and I'm also grateful for the support I receive from many of you. I want to thank the rest of the leadership team, all of our volunteer members who have put on incredible programs directed at defending the rule of law, all the forums that have been put on, the support of our staff in developing and delivering on those. I don't think any of you fully understand how much work goes in to the output of this bar association. Pam, her team, the folks up front, the folks upstairs, and all across the state are really delivering for our members. And I hope you appreciate that as much as I do. So I'd like to give them a round of applause in my closing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, so at this time, we are going to have a moment of silence for our past president, Maxwell S. Pfeiffer, who recently passed away. And so as we are taking this moment of silence, there'll be a short video highlighting some of the accomplishments during his tenure as Bronx County President, as well as Bar President for the New York State Bar Association. He will be missed. So this time I ask our president to return to the podium to deliver another tribute. And this will be an award for someone that she will identify very shortly. Thank you, Kathleen.
Deja vu, it's me again. I'm thrilled this morning to share with you the great work of David Colligan. The work he is doing in the Buffalo-Niagara region and why he is so richly deserving of the recognition we give him today. He is a Western New Yorker born and bred, graduating from SUNY Geneseo and attending the University of Buffalo School of Law. He founded the Colligan Law Firm with a focus in corporate and business law while incorporating natural resource law. His firm is proud to be a part of Buffalo's economic renewal. Believe in Buffalo. Those three words have encapsulated David's career and passion in working to improve the lives of Western New Yorkers. There was a time when many people wrote off Buffalo as a dying Rust Belt town, but not David. He saw the potential for our city to be revitalized as a center for innovation and entrepreneurship. He founded Launch New York, the first and only nonprofit venture development organization offering pro bono mentoring and seed money for startups. His involvement has translated into 10,000 new jobs in the region since 2012. Over half of the investment of Launch New York has benefited new business in underserved communities who faced barriers to capital investment. His work in the Western New York Venture Association has helped dozens of startups reach success. He's enriched our community and has been pivotal in the resurgence of Buffalo as the second largest market in the state. Can you name the first? No, just kidding. It's not just business development that fuels David's passion. He is a steward of the environment and uses his time and talent to improve our parks and waterways. His deep knowledge of forestry and natural resource law is an integral part of his volunteer work. When an early October snowstorm crippled Western New York and killed off thousands of trees almost 20 years ago, David got to work finding a way to restore the trees that were lost. He led a veritable army of hundreds and hundreds of volunteers through what is called Retree Western New York to restore the area's tree canopy. His environmental work extends to improving our forests, botanical gardens, historic parks, and the Erie Canal. No award presentation would be complete without a mention of our beloved Buffalo Bills. And no one carries out the legacy of the Bills' founder, Ralph Wilson, better than David Colligan. In addition to being a season ticket holder, as the first at-large member of the Wilson Foundation's Board of Trustees, David uses his experience in business and community advocacy to build the foundation's governance, which he did from scratch. His guidance helped the $1 billion foundation, that's billion with a B, to deploy programs serving seniors and children across Western New York. Jack Greco, founder of Cupel Ventures, wrote in his nomination letter, "Buffalo is better, our startup ecosystem is better, and I am better because David cares with his actions every day." David's work has touched the lives of nearly every single resident in the Buffalo-Niagara region, myself included, whether they realize it or not. From trees to trusted caregivers for our seniors, David Colligan's service work has affected people in a favorable, positive, beneficial way, and that includes all walks of life in Western New York. Please join me in congratulating the 2025 Ruth Stimson Award recipient, David Colligan. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
All right, thank you. Let me just get this out of your way.
Thank you, Kathy, for those kind words. I'm very honored to be the Ruth Simpson Award winner this year because I think it's great that the New York State Bar Association recognizes lawyers who do community service work. I think many people in this room and many lawyers across the state do community service work, do not get recognized for it, and it's nice to know that their bar association is supporting them in its own way. I want to say that I shouldn't have gotten this award, my wife should have gotten it, because when I met her 2 years after law school, I was involved in politics, and she said, "I don't want to be married to a politician, so you have to make a choice." And as a lawyer, I decided to negotiate. So I negotiated with her, and she said, "Why do you want to be a politician?" And I said, "Because I want to do community service to make Buffalo a better place." She said, "You can do that without being a politician, I said, do you know how many hours I'll be out of the house if I do that as a non-politician? She goes, you can be out of the house as many hours as it takes. And she's held her end of the bargain up. So another family story is when I told my daughter I was getting the Root Stimson Award, she said, is that from Elihu Root? And I thought, well, she's not a lawyer. How would she know that? So I said, yes, it is. How do you know that? She said, well, I went to Hamilton College, and in Hamilton College, they have the Root Glen, and it's named after him. So I thought, well, that's kind of a fun thing to know. So I just want to say that community service as a lawyer is very important to me, but I think being a lawyer, it gives you a natural advantage. One of the things I found in many of the organizations I was in is people treat you as leaders immediately because of your law background. And you get promoted to the head of these organizations very quickly. I can't think of a single board I've ever been on that hasn't told me that they wanted me as a member of the board because I was a lawyer, specifically because I was a lawyer. So I think that's a real honor for us that we get recognized for that in public service. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that it's a real honor to be named the Root Stimson Award winner for 2025. I do appreciate you recognizing community service as an important part of a lawyer's life. I know when I started my law firm that you heard about from Kathleen a little while ago, we made it one of our 5 core values to have community service front and center in every lawyer's life who work for us. So thank you again.
Congratulations, David. And congratulations, Mrs. Colligan, as well. So now let's move to the next item on our agenda, which is the report and recommendation of the Task Force on Opiate Addiction that Kathleen had referenced earlier in her remarks. And at this time, I ask Dr. Mary Beth Quaranta Morrissey to come to the podium.
Good morning. Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair, President Sweet, members of the leadership team, and members of the House. It's my honor this morning to have the opportunity to present this report on behalf of the Task Force on Opioid Addiction. Next slide, please. I want to start by thanking past President Dominic Napolitano for having the vision to create the task force and also for investing his trust in me in leading the task force. So I know we have limited time for the report, so I'm going to proceed swiftly. Here is some of the data that you will also find in the written report that's part of your materials today. Next slide. I'm going to give a high-level overview of the work that the task force did. Obviously, review the recommendations that we're making, major areas of focus that we spend so much time on, and then, of course, welcome any questions. Next slide. So here is a map of when our work began in the December 2024. We had an article published in the Bar Journal. There were 13 task force members, 13 advisory members, a really illustrious group, and I want to take a minute today to thank each and every one of them for their very meaningful contributions to our work. We also hosted a program at the Health Law Section annual meeting in January, and I had the great honor and privilege of doing an oral history, which is a wonderful method of qualitative research, by the way, for attorneys, with Anne Marie Foster, who's the president and CEO of Phoenix House, one of the major providers of treatment services here in New York City. I recommend it to you, have a chance to take a look at it. Really humanizes the report and gives us a sense of what this work is all about on the ground. And the final report was issued in October 2025. Next slide. Here's a summary of our recommendations in terms of specific bills that we're looking at. I'm not going to go through them one by one. but they are in your packet. An important one, of course, is expanding access to treatment through expansion of the workforce and other important things here to make it easier for those who are desperately in need of treatment and services to get the treatment they need. And we've identified several populations in our report, including those in carceral settings, older adults, which may come as a surprise to you, but there's an increasing rate of addiction among older people, and of course, many of them are in institutional settings, and also mothers and pregnant women. These populations are close to my heart, and I'm sure you share my concerns. Next slide. Here's a snapshot of the major areas of focus. I want to thank my colleague Matt Pinello for assisting me in putting these slides together. In terms of framing of the problem, that's so important to any policy work. And I want to take a moment here to draw your attention to the fact that we gave the problem a name, and that was a persistent public health crisis being left behind, because that's what we saw when we spoke to so many people and understood the lived experience of those who were suffering. We also focused on, obviously, access to gold standard treatment and services. I've already mentioned the importance of workforce development, funding, and settlement fund distribution. My colleague Lisa Smith from the Health Law section spent a lot of time looking at this. We have a number of data slides and information in the written report on this. And then one very meaningful part of my experience with the task force was that the professionals who were out in the field working on the ground to address these issues shared their own lived experience of vicarious trauma. And I felt this was a very, very important part of our conversations and something for us to be aware of as we move forward, that it's not just the non-professionals, but also the professionals, including our attorney colleagues, who are dealing with trauma as a result of this work. Next slide. A little bit more here on the framing of the problem, balancing risk to communities and meeting needs of those struggling with opioid use disorder, by the way, which is the preferred language. We try to avoid using stigmatizing language when we're talking about this problem. I mentioned expanding access to gold standard medications for opioid use disorder, funding. I've already mentioned the special populations, but draw attention to them again. And I want to acknowledge Professor Underhill from Cornell University, who gave us a wonderful article for the Health Law Journal on the issues facing pregnant women and mothers, if you have a chance to look at that. Next slide. A lot of work for us to do as a bar association as we move forward with developing workforce strategies that specifically target a more diverse behavioral workforce. Excuse me. And I want to also mention the issue of equity and inequities as we consider the report today. There are obviously vast inequities in terms of those who are suffering with opioid use disorder, including people of color, people who don't have housing, so getting into those structural and social determinants of health. This is not just about individual level decision-making. Next slide. More here on funding and staffing, and we learned so much during the COVID pandemic about some of these issues, and much of what we learned during that time carries over to this problem as well. Next slide. Is that our last slide? Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. Behavioral health resources in communities. Again, here we're talking about not just the institutional providers, but also what are we doing in communities. And here again, Anne Marie Foster from Phoenix House made us very, very aware of the importance of continuing to work with local communities on these issues. Next slide. There's much, of course, that is being done at the federal level, but I want to draw your attention today to also the importance of state and local government policy. And this is where the New York State Bar Association can really have a critical role. The Journal of Health Affairs, which is the leading policy journal in the United States when it comes to policy issues, just did a whole series of articles and programs on opioid addiction. And this is something they highlighted, the important role of state and local government in making policy. So again, I really emphasize this as we consider the report and the recommendations today. Next slide. I've shared with you with great trust and faith that we need to be aware of the issue of vicarious trauma for all of the workers on the ground, the addiction workers, as well as our professional colleagues who are involved in this work. And as we move forward with our recommendations and with continuing legal education, we will be having a program in the annual meeting. This is something that we will continue to focus on. Next slide. This is more data on the opioid settlement fund, so I'm not going to dwell on this today, but you have all of the information in the written report. Next slide. And I'm going to move ahead here. Next slide, please. I do want to call attention to the work being done on Staten Island, and I was pleased to share with the executive committee yesterday that this is viewed as the most successful locality in New York State in terms of the work that they're doing on opioid addiction. And the Health Law Section is having a program there in the next couple of weeks, and we hope to continue to work with Staten Island to really learn more about what they're doing so we can use that paradigm throughout the state. Next slide. Here are some references. I want to thank everyone who contributed to this work. And I believe that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you for your attention. May I be so bold as to make a motion to accept the report, Madam Chair, or is that premature?
Just hold for one moment.
Okay.
Just want to know, are there any questions? Okay. Want to do a shout out to Richmond County? Woo-hoo. All right, so before we proceed to the motion, I just want to say that the report was endorsed by the EC at its meeting yesterday for approval by the House. And so at this time, well, you're a non-House of Delegate member, so you cannot make a motion.
Thank you.
All right, so at this time, I ask, is there a motion to? All right, excellent. Is there any further discussion? Anything on the phone? Yeah, we had a second. It was motioned and it was seconded. Thank you, Craig. Anything on the Zoom? Okay, hearing nothing on the Zoom. At this time, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, one abstention noted. And on the phone, on Zoom platform, okay, we also have an abstention that's noted there as well. For those of you who do abstain, can you please send a note as was stated earlier? Okay, thank you very much. All right, it carries. Thank you very much, Dr. Morrissey, for your work.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, well, let's move to the next item on the agenda. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so now we will move to the report of the Committee on Standards and Attorney Conduct. I would ask the presenters, John McHaney and James Walker, to come to the podium. Or are they online? They were online yesterday. Are they here? Oh, okay. So we are again ahead of schedule and they are not on the line. So we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Ageism report. Are they here? Are Fran Rabias Napolitano and Sharon Stiller, are they here? Okay. Okay, going once, going twice on that. So we're doing great work, ladies and gentlemen. We are way ahead of schedule. All right, so while we're waiting for that one, let's see if Miss Linda Foyer is here. I'm sorry, Lindsay Foyer, for the report and recommendations on the Trust and Estates Law section. She's okay. So we are way ahead of schedule. Well, I did see one speaker that was here. Let's see. Is John Gross here? Oh, oh, okay, well, and Tom is here. So Tom, we will move way down to the agenda and we will do the report for the gala. Thank you, Tom.
Now substituting for John Gross. A little better. So anyway, I have the great pleasure, but not the gravitas of the narrator's voice that John Gross has, of talking to you just a little bit about the gala this year, which is, I guarantee you this, it's going to sell out. When Hank Greenberg took us to the Museum of Natural History, to the whale room, I called up everyone I knew and I said, I realize you think 1,000 tickets. Trust me, 2 weeks before, I was wishing there was a secondary market in this stuff. People were calling me, 1,000 seats, totally sold out. Oh, Tom, come on. I know you got a table somewhere. So this, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to sell out. It's going to sell out fairly quickly. We have an outstanding special guest that will be presented the gold medal, the governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul. And it's just going to be a great time to celebrate the 150th anniversary of this great association. Let's see, they have some slides set up here, so we'll go to the next slide. Individual tickets are now available on the website. Now, there's two types of individual tickets. At $425, gets you into the gala. I like to buy the $550 tickets, which gets Michelle and myself listed on the program as a special supporter of this great association. So if you want to be listed in the program, go for the $550 and show that little touch of extra support for our great association. So individual tickets are available on the website. We have table sponsorships available at 3 different price points, which you can see: Liberty, Excelsior, and Empire. So if your section has not yet sponsored a table or a half table with another section, act now before it's too late. Is Gerard in the house? Oh, there you are. See Gerard. Gerard's the guy. Next slide. All right, well, I didn't realize they were going to show this, but this is a great group of people, except for that guy Maroney. I mean, John Gross is the brains of this entire gala sales committee. And I can't say enough great things about John. He's attending virtually, so I thought I would mention that we miss you here in person. But John Gross, myself, Don Dorr, and Vinnie Doyle comprise the sales committee for the gala. So you can actually, if you have any of our contact information, just get in touch with us. Get in touch with Gerard, get in touch with Pam or Kathy or any other member of the great staff here at the Bar Center, and you give us what you want to do, and we'll enable you to do it. So I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and I'll see you at the gala. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom, for being able to present early. We do have our presenters for the Task Force on Ageism. Tony, is Sharon in the... Okay, so the co-presenter is still not available. We're having a technical challenge. So I would ask Judge Chambers, are you... So at this time, we'll have Judge Chambers, Chair of our New York Bar Foundation, deliver her report.
Just wing it? That's what our president said, just wing it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gerald Chambers, president of the New York Bar Foundation. As many of you know, this is a very special year for the foundation. It's the foundation's 75th anniversary. And with this milestone comes not only reflection, but also a renewed sense of purpose. Throughout this year, and especially in these past few months, we've been deeply engaged in outreach and collaboration, working to advance awareness of the rule of law and access to justice across New York State. We all know that these are challenging times. The pressures on our justice system are real, and the need for legal support among the most vulnerable continues to grow. More than ever, the values that unite us, public service, access to justice, and the rule of law need strong and visible champions. That's where the foundation comes in. Our work and your support help ensure that those values not only endure, but thrive. As members of the House of Delegates and our fellows, you are also members of the foundation. That connection is powerful. It reflects our shared belief that justice is not a privilege, but a promise, one that depends on our enduring commitment to service and to one another. Our mission is simple, but profound. We invest in justice, we sustain it, we make it accessible through philanthropy and the collective spirit of our profession. So this morning, I'd like to share a few highlights that reflect the Foundation's enduring commitment, our continued dedication to protecting rights, expanding opportunity, and strengthening the promise of justice of all New Yorkers. This summer, we celebrated the Foundation's enduring commitment through our Leadership Laureate Series, which honors individuals whose careers exemplify leadership, integrity, and service to the rule of law. In July, we recognized First Deputy Chief Administrative Judge Norman St. George and U.S. Magistrate Judge James Wicks with our Force for Justice Award. It was an inspiring evening that brought together members of the legal community in a shared spirit of purpose. Judge St. George and Wicks were celebrated not only for their professional excellence, but for their deep commitment to fairness, mentorship, and community service, values that reflect the very heart of the Foundation's mission. I'd also like to mention that our sponsor for that reception was Roskin, Moscow, and Falachek. The evening underscored a simple but powerful truth. Our strength lies in unity of purpose. When we come together to honor those who lead and serve, we reaffirm the Foundation's guiding principle that justice endures through our collective care and our investment and resolve to protect it. In September, we continued to celebrate the Foundation's enduring commitment through another inspiring Leadership Laureate event, this time honoring the Honorable Barry Kamins. The lead sponsor for that reception was Idella, Bertuna, and Kamins. Judge Kamins, a long-standing fellow of the Foundation, was recognized for his exceptional scholarship, leadership, and service to the legal profession, as well as his lifelong dedication to strengthening New York's criminal justice system. The celebration held in Brooklyn was both personal and moving. In reflecting on the evening, Judge Kamen said this: "The vital work of the foundation has made a meaningful, positive impact for thousands of New Yorkers in communities spanning the reaches of our state. I am deeply honored by this recognition from such a dynamic philanthropic organization, and I encourage those across the legal profession to help make a difference for those in need, supporting the foundation." Together, the July and September events welcomed more than 150 attendees. These gatherings not only positioned the foundation as a convener of thought leaders, but also served as a powerful forum to highlight our grantee partners, showcasing our impact and inspiring new connections and support. Each event demonstrated how the foundation brings its mission to life, combining advocacy, engagement, and philanthropy into one powerful expression of our enduring commitment to justice for all. When we think about the work of the New York Bar Foundation, what truly defines us is our grants program that stands for the center of our mission. As the only statewide charitable organization in New York solely dedicated to strengthening the justice system, broadening access to justice, and supporting the integrity of the legal profession, we help make justice possible for those who need it most. Over the past 5 years, through the generosity of donors, many of you in this room, the foundation has provided $3.7 million in grants to nonprofits across New York State. We've also invested in the next generation through 1.5 million fellowships and scholarships, supporting over 500 students in all 15 New York State law schools. This year's 2026 grant cycle drew applications from nearly every judicial district, totaling more than $2 million in requests, with access to education, family matters, and housing among the top focus areas. Our impact is meaningful, but the need continues to grow. The foundation remains steadfast in answering that call for support. A clear example comes from one of our grantees, Advocates for Children of New York, and its school justice program, which reached 850 people. Through their intervention, a 15-year-old student facing repeated suspensions and exclusion from school was placed in a supportive educational setting where she is now thriving. This story captures what our work is all about. Our foundation grants transform challenges into opportunities, and how generosity becomes a lasting impact. Now, I don't have the voice of our secretary over here, but moving on to the fun part. And speaking of highlights, we are fast approaching one of the most exciting milestones in the foundation's history, our 75th anniversary gala. On Friday, November 7th, at Gotham Hall in New York City, we'll gather to celebrate the foundation's legacy of justice, 75 years of advancing justice and strengthening communities across New York State. This evening will be more than a celebration. It will be an opportunity to honor our legacy, raise awareness, and build momentum for the future. We are thrilled to honor 4 extraordinary individuals whose leadership and service embody the values we stand for. The Honorable Loretta Lynch, former U.S. Attorney General and partner at Paul Weiss. Whitney Chatterjee, partner and chief legal officer of Apollo Global Management. Carrie H. Cohen, partner, Morrison Foster. Philanthropist in Action honoree, Jalen Brunson, captain, New York Knicks, and co-founder of the Second Round Foundation. For any of you think that he's not coming, he's going to be there. He's going to be there with his family. Now, don't touch, you got to Give him his, he's got a security team, but you'll get an opportunity to see him. We are deeply grateful for the support of several state bar sections, our officers, our association officers, and so many of you who have championed this event. Our Gala leadership team has been extraordinary. Co-chairs Eileen Cooper and Lauren Wackler, Vice Chair Sherry Levin-Wallach, Planning Committee Vincent Chang, Catherine Christian, Sarah Gold, Ross Cortez, James Kobach, Kimberly Wolf-Price, David Shraver, Anthony Vaughn, and Jeffrey Zana. I'll make sure I have pictures the next time. We're also delighted to share that our MC will be the acclaimed journalist and producer, Paul Lazan, and the evening will feature a special live performance by the Jersey Boys, making it an unforgettable celebration. If you have not already made plans to attend, now is the time. And it's really true, we are about to sell out, and we have 2 weeks out. And actually, I sent a note to the manager for the event to find out how many seats could we possibly get extra and make sure that everybody is comfortable. So, and while the evening itself will be spectacular, the celebration does not end there. We're also marking this milestone with a 75th anniversary video tribute, a reflection of the Foundation's extraordinary journey and the people who've shaped its enduring legacy. A special thank you to our president, Kathleen Sweet, for participating in the video and for her continued support of the Foundation. We also extend our appreciation to past presidents and fellow Hank Greenberg, Catherine Richardson, and T. Andrew Baum for also lending their voices and insight to the video tribute. Their reflections remind us how far we've come and how much stronger we are when we move together. It is through the generosity of those who support the Foundation and this year's gala that our impact is made possible. Today, our work is more vital than ever. Across New York, people are facing challenges beyond their control: housing insecurity, health crises, and cuts to essential services. Without legal help, too many are left to face these struggles alone. That's why our shared commitment to service matters so deeply. Your generosity fuels the Foundation's ability to open doors to justice and create lasting change. Together, we can strengthen this legacy for generations to come. Thank you for your partnership, your support, and your belief in our mission. I hope to see all of you at the gala, well, not all of you, and I look forward to seeing you again at the annual meeting in January. Thank you so much.
Judge Chambers, you left the podium a little too quickly. How much are the tickets? So for those of you on the phone, the ticket price, the tickets are $450. Okay, so now we will return to one of our earlier topics because our speakers are here. This is a good problem to have. That means we are ahead of schedule. So we've worked out our technical issue. And so at this time, I would ask Fran Rabias-Napolitano to come to the podium. And if the staff could put Sharon Stiller, her co-presenter, on the screen as they will do their presentation for the report and recommendation of their report on ageism in the legal profession.
Hi. Good morning, esteemed colleagues. It's an honor to speak with you today and everybody here on the Executive Committee.
Fran, can you pull the microphone closer to you so everyone can hear?
Sure. So I've asked to be a little brief. I'm going to try to reduce my speech a little bit. But I would like to say that, and we can go to the first slide, definition of ageism slide. I'd appreciate that. I would like to say that the impetus for the New York City human rights law framed age discrimination as a significant danger. There is no greater danger to the health and morals, safety to inhabitants of a city like New York than groups prejudiced against one another and antagonistic to each other because of their actual or perceived differences. This includes age. So getting right to the point, if you wouldn't mind, please switch to ageism in the legal profession, the slide. As lawyers, we are trained to recognize unfairness, to dismantle bias, and to stand for the rights of those who are overlooked and underestimated. Yet, despite being a field that values experience and institutional knowledge, the legal profession is not immune to age-based discrimination, especially as work environments shift due to technology, changing client expectations, and generational turnover. So the obvious first step in the goal assigned to the New York State Bar Association's then President Dominic Napolitano, when he created the task force, was to examine and determine what can we as lawyers and as an organization do to identify ageism and combat it within our profession. We determined near daily older lawyers are kept out of many jobs, as evidenced by discriminatory advertising. They are denied leadership roles or are sidelined. They are pushed out of many jobs under the guise of succession planning. Many distinguished judges are also forced into early retirement. All this despite decades of excellence or exemplary service. We found that young lawyers are affected as well. They are expected to wait their turn and are often denied real responsibility regardless of their readiness. Younger professionals are often dismissed as too inexperienced to contribute, and all these actions disregard knowledge and capability. Whether as a victim or as a litigator, we must advocate to bring these cases forward. As corporate counsel, we must ensure our clients don't just comply with the law, but uphold its spirit. And as legislators, policymakers, and advocates, we must push for reform. Lastly, we must educate our peers, our clients, and the public. Age bias isn't always intentional, but it's always harmful. Age discrimination leads to financial insecurity, poorer health, social isolation, cognitive decline, and premature death. Therefore, we must all push back against the cost of ageism because it weakens us. We must eradicate ageism in policies, in the workplace, in our language, and in ourselves. We must fight ageism because if it hasn't already, it will eventually come for your dignity. I would like to switch to Sharon now for her presentation on the recommendations that we've made.
Thank you, Fran. If we could go to the next slide. Next slide. Nope, go back. 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 And back once more. So we recognize, the New York State Bar Association recognized as early as 2007 that ageism was an issue for the legal profession. And a special committee was appointed. At that time, the special committee decided or determined that the issues were so complex that they could only tackle part of the issues at that time and focused on mandatory retirement. If we can go to the next slide. Now we recognize that it is important that we tackle the many issues that exist with ageism for a variety of reasons, including the fact that our population is getting older. Technology has made it possible for lawyers to work longer. There's economic insecurity and social security insecurity, all of which leads us to recognize that this issue, which was an issue in 2007, is even more critical now. Next slide. The laws also have not kept up with the issue of ageism or provided us with the relief that's necessary. There are a variety of technical issues, exemptions with respect to age discrimination laws. Next slide. There are issues that we've faced in the legal profession about whether partners and most older lawyers or many older lawyers are partners, whether they're even covered by the age discrimination laws. Next slide. And other technical issues. There have been some positive steps, including New York's Equal Rights Amendment, which was effective in January of 2025, and which covers age for all persons without a minimum or a maximum, and some amendments to our disciplinary rules, which also make it unprofessional to engage in age discrimination. But there are still lawsuits, still issues that we need to face, which brings us to the recommendations. Next slide. So the task force has issued a number of recommendations, the most significant of which is that the New York State Bar Association tackle these issues, that it take responsibility and oversight. At the recommendation of the executive committee, page 36 of the task force's report was amended, the first paragraph was amended to provide, in brief, the task force recommends that the 50+ and young lawyer sections determine within 6 months of the report's adoption which recommendations are feasible to implement for the New York State Bar Association to advocate in a variety of settings, and the rest of the sentence calling for action remains the same. So we need to gather information, more information, we need to monitor, we need to survey, we need to have constant reporting to the Bar Association. There are other things that we've recommended, like eliminating bias-related terms, which exist both within the New York State Bar Association as well as with law firms in general. Things that we've discussed, such as calling the section which deals with newer attorney, the young lawyers section. We also need to encourage mentoring and teams, skills updates, exploring non-age related recruitment alternatives, to look at other options for retiring attorneys. There are a number of recommendations, including additionally monitoring and advocating legislation. There are still lawsuits as recently as April of 2025, filed in the Southern District of New York, alleging age discrimination in law firms. We all know what we've grown up with, the concepts, and we believe that it's time to tackle it. So we thank you for the opportunity to look at this issue. We thank you for the opportunity to provide you with more information about this issue. And we thank you for the opportunity to, again, address ageism as we started to do in 2007. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Fran. At this moment, I want to ask if there are questions, not comments yet, but any questions of the speakers. Anything on Zoom? Okay. Hearing no questions, we will proceed to putting a motion on the floor, and then I'll open it up for discussion. And so before we proceed to getting a motion for this report, I want to let you know that the executive committee did endorse this report with the amendment that Sharon Stiller identified on page 36 of the report itself. So with that being said, is there a motion to approve the report as it was amended in the executive committee? Okay, is there a second? Second. It's been appropriately moved and second. At this time, I open it up for discussion. Are there any speakers? Okay. At this time, yes? Mark, wait one moment. Can people hear Mark?
Not well.
Okay. All right, before you proceed, we're working on the mic. Is it on? Does it need to turn it on? Turn it on. Turn it on, Mark.
right, thank you. Mark Alcott, former president. Thank you, Madam Chair. In our first week at law school, all of us studied the landmark seminal decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Erie Railroad against Tompkins, which was fundamental in defining and shaping the unique American system of federalism and the role of the federal courts. The Erie case has been cited thousands of times since it was promulgated. The author of that decision was the great jurist Louis Brandeis, who was not only a legendary judge, but before that a legendary and probably the most outstanding advocate in the United States. But if Justice Brandeis had been a judge of the state of New York, the highest court in the state of New York, rather than the highest court in the United States, we would not have the benefit of his wisdom in the Erie case. And if he had practiced law in one of our major law firms, though a great advocate, he would not have been permitted to argue as counsel that case. Why? Because Justice Brandeis was 81 years old when he wrote that decision. He was appointed to the court at the age of 60. He served until the age of 83. And he is Exhibit A in the case against age discrimination in the legal profession in our country and in our state. That was one of my signature issues when I was State Bar President. I have to give a shout out to my wife who encouraged me to pursue that issue. And as has been mentioned, I appointed the special committee which made a recommendation and a report, an excellent report that's still available for you to look at. And that led to a declaration by this House in 2007 that mandatory age-based retirement is unacceptable, that it's against the interest of lawyers, clients, and the public that we serve. And we took that to the ABA, which also endorsed it. So that is now the public policy of the legal profession. And given that background, I'm absolutely delighted that President Napolitano appointed the task force to take a renewed look at the issue. And I'm gratified that the task force has issued such an exceptional report. It teaches us something very important. It teaches us that age discrimination remains an invidious factor in our profession and in our society. And it is chock full of recommendations, ideas, suggestions for addressing that. So I appreciate the report. I embrace the report. I urge its support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any speakers online? Is there anyone who wants to speak against the report? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move to a vote. It was appropriately moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the report and the recommendations of the task force on ageism, please raise your hand. Or sorry, that was my mistake. Please say aye. Please say aye. Aye. Sorry. All, all those against?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any abstentions? And then online, please. All right. It passes. The motion carries. Thank you. Do we have our presenters for the task force, I'm sorry, for COSAC?
Do.
Okay. Okay, great. So we will proceed to the report on the Committee on Attorney Standards and Conduct. Can you please pull up for the presenters and the presentation?
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, and so at this time, we are going to have Mr. John M. McCaney, who will be presenting on the proposed amendments to New York Rule 1.16 and comments, as well as proposed amendments to New York Rule 3.4 and comments. Please note that on the agenda, it's reflected that the proposed amendments to Rule 4.1 and comments have been removed and will not be discussed during this presentation. John, you may proceed.
Thanks very much for the opportunity to present on behalf of COSAC. Our proposed amendment to New York Rule 1.16 will introduce to our rules the inquiry a lawyer must conduct and risks a lawyer must evaluate when deciding whether to accept, decline, modify, or terminate an engagement. We undertook this project in response to heavy criticism of the American legal profession for failing to be sufficiently on guard against unwitting facilitation of money laundering and other criminal transactions. The Intergovernmental Financial Action Task Force was a principal source of criticism and specifically urged lawyers to adopt a risk-based approach to evaluating new clients and legal engagements. The ABA amended Model Rule 116 2 years ago to address this criticism, and I'll mention some of the similarities and differences we have with the ABA rule. Our changes, reasoning, and response to public comments are all addressed in our report and in our heavily footnoted proposed rule. In brief, first, we modernized the rule. We merged the factors currently separately listed in New York Rule 116 that a lawyer should consider in determining whether to accept or withdraw from an engagement. This is consistent with the ABA model rule and is syntactically much easier to work with. We also adopted consistent terminology throughout the rule. In particular, we use engagement in lieu of employment and representation as found in the current rule. Among other things, we wanted to eliminate any question whether our rule covers behind-the-scenes advice as well as traditional representation. Now, as you can see from the slide that's up on the screen now, substantively, our new introductory paragraph A to 116 places an obligation on lawyers to inquire into and assess the facts and circumstances of each engagement or prospective engagement, and to seek to understand at the outset and throughout the engagement the risk that the engagement will result in a violation of these rules or other law in order to determine whether the lawyer may accept or continue the engagement or instead must decline, modify, or terminate the engagement. Some points to be noted here. First, our initial duty of inquiry is similar to the ABA rule. Second, the obligation of inquiry applies at the outset of and throughout the engagement. This means, among other things, that if enacted, this duty will immediately apply to a lawyer's current engagements. But we do not think that this will make law offices explode the moment the rule is enacted, because, my point 3, while the duty of inquiry and risk assessment are new to the language of New York's 116, our new rule is really not a great departure from current New York 16. Specifically, current Rule 116 applies where the lawyer knows or reasonably should know that the client or prospective client wants the attorney to do something bad. And reasonably should know is a defined term in the New York rules, meaning that a lawyer of reasonable prudence and competence would ascertain the matter in question. That is already very close to a duty of inquiry. And while risk is a new term in 116, evaluating risk is really second nature to a lawyer in any event. Furthermore, the actual operative language of our new rule, when you have to kick a current client out the door, is the same under our new rule as under the current rule. When the lawyer knows or reasonably should know that the client wants you to do something bad. Nor, as I'll develop in a moment, does our proposed rule require implementation of any particular new compliance system. If it is adopted, what we do expect at the time the rule is passed is that lawyers will think over their current clients and engagements and at least reevaluate the hopefully small number of them that raise a question in the back of the lawyer's mind about what's going on. And then in response to a specific question from the executive committee about being appointed to represent a criminal defendant, I don't think there'll be any change. I think for purposes of this rule, you know pretty much all you need to know about the client at the time of the appointment, that they may be an unsavory person, and the engagement is pretty clear, defend the client. You'll probably never know as much you might like about the client, and if the client keeps on asking you to do things you cannot properly do, you may be permitted to withdraw if the client doesn't succeed in getting rid of you first. Basically, I see no change to how criminal representations will be handled. Now, what does our rule not do? It does not impose the full risk-based approach or any other system for evaluating a given engagement. What is the risk-based approach anyway? Can we have the next slide? I think we're talking about slide number 8, if I've got the, go back a little bit.
Yeah, go back one slide.
There we go.
That's it.
So there's my effort at summarizing the risk-based approach. You see it up in the slide, and I won't read it, but you get the point that it involves a lot of systems and procedures. And no, we have nothing against the risk-based approach, the RBA, au contraire. We just thought that our proposed rule as an ethical precept should tell lawyers where they should end up to understand the risks of a particular engagement and leave the how to ethics opinions, CLE, and indeed study of RBA manuals. And here we come to a peculiar parting of the ways with the ABA. Can I have the next slide? Now, ABA Model Rule 116 does not even contain the term risk, but in its comment 2, too long to display now, the ABA lists a series of risk factors and then directs the lawyer to several legal profession risk-based approach manuals for further guidance. And finally, last year, the ABA issued Ethics Opinion 513, which says that comment 2 adopts a risk-based approach. Next slide, please. I think that should be comment 1 up there. If we can move forward 1, there we go. Our own new comment 1 also lists risk factors for the lawyer to consider, but does not cross-reference any RBA guidance manuals. Because New York is a black letter only jurisdiction, we did not think we could go the same route as the ABA. In contrast, I will note that Wyoming has adopted the ABA rule and comments. Other jurisdictions after the ABA amendment have not gone so far. I think this is going to be a developing issue across the American legal landscape, and that we're making a pretty thoughtful contribution to that. Now, we only received 2 public comments on our draft rule, a submission from the New York City Bar Ethics Committees, and a submission from Marjorie Gross, a former chair of the State Bar Committee on Professional Ethics, among other roles. Neither took issue with our overall approach, but instead recommended certain corrections and changes in terminology. Skipping over recommendations we adopted and minor points where we made no change, I will note that the City Bar was concerned that engagement could be overread to include non-legal services such as acting as an arbitrator. But the current rule uses the equally broad term employment, and we are not aware of any such issue having arisen under that. Ms. Gross also objected to engagement because, she argued, the preamble to the rules and other usages in the rules and comments make clear that the term representation covered behind-the-scenes work as well. Again, because the preamble is not part of the official rules, the concern remains that a traditionalist reading of representation would not carry the day against a textualist reading of that term if that was what was in the rule. Nor will every attorney who reads these rules be as steeped in their tradition as we all are. And we did not want there to be any question on the point. Next slide, please. There we have it. But after these comments, we did add a reference to the preamble and its statement of the multiple roles of a lawyer to our proposed comment 1A. As you can see it up there. And we think that that should ease the overbreadth concern of the City Bar and remind the reader of the traditionally broad view of representation. So bottom line, we think we have a pretty good proposal, suitable for New York, that will pull lawyers along where they should be going. And if you have any questions, actually, I guess they'll come at the end of Jim's presentation.
Can you just please proceed through the rest of the presentation? We'll take questions at the conclusion of your presentation.
Okay. So, yeah, here we go. So COSAC wishes to, I'm going to present on Rule 3.4, modification of a comment to Rule 3.4. We want to, sort of harking back to 2024, 3.4 was amended to add paragraph 3.4F, which prohibits lawyers from requesting anyone other than a client from voluntarily giving information to another party unless that person is a relative, an employee, or other agent of the client, and the lawyer reasonably believes that person's interest will not be adversely affected. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So we want to further clarify under the comment, what are the contours of Rule 3.4? So the House of Delegates had adopted a provision permitting lawyers to tell anyone of the right not to be interviewed along with adopting Rule 3.4F. Some discussion about that actually led to a decision to go a little further in terms of clarifying what you can and cannot do. Among those things, we want to say that a lawyer can ask to be present at an interview by another party, provided the lawyer discloses that the lawyer's presence is not required. And a lawyer may remind a former employee of an obligation not to disclose privileged or confidential information. Now, both of those points are actually supported by case law. The thought is that we can provide further guidance to the bar by, referencing that in the comments. So that's essentially what we want to do with 3.4 today. And so we're ready for questions on both.
Thank you for your presentation. If you can move the slide to the Q&A slide. Okay, are there any questions for the presenters? Yes.
This is, I'm Ron Minkoff. I'm a delegate from the New York County Lawyers Association. I'm a member of, I'm a professional responsibility lawyer in my career. I've been doing that for over 40 years. And I'm a past president of the Association of Professional Responsibility Lawyers. And I'm rising today to oppose.
Wait, do you have a question? This isn't for you giving a speech for or against. Do you have a question?
It's not really a question. It's going to be an opposition.
Okay, so please hold off on that. Yes, do you have a question?
No, I also want to speak in opposition.
Okay. Are there any questions? Anything on Zoom? Okay, so we don't have any questions. So at this point, we're going to move to a motion. We're going to do them separately. So the first one we are going to have a discussion about is Rule 1.16, which is the declining or terminating representation. Is there a motion to approve the report and recommendations of the committee on amending this rule? Okay, so it's moved, and I heard a second? Second. Okay, so at this point, we will now proceed to discussion on Rule 1.16. Okay, yes.
Yes, my name is Peggy Finnerty. I'm a delegate from the New York County Lawyers Association. I also have the privilege of being a member of COSAC, and I served on the subcommittee that dealt with the amendments to Rule 1.16. It's very important. I speak in support of the proposal and the amendment in the report. It's very important that lawyers' services are not used to facilitate money laundering, which, as we all know, covers up serious crimes such as human trafficking, drug cartels, terrorism. And as a member of the subcommittee, I can't begin to tell you how much thought went into these proposals for the amendments. We spent a few years discussing this in great detail, looking at what the ABA had done. I must especially commend John McEnany, who did the yeoman's work in this report and these amendments, but also not only John, but other subcommittee members, of course, Jim Walker, Roy Simon, Joe Newhouse, Gordon Eng. A lot of hard work and thought went into this, and by a lot of very smart people who I was pleased to work with. So I urge the support of the amendment and the report. Thank you.
Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this motion? Okay. All right, hearing. Anyone on the phone want to speak in opposition or for the amendment? I mean, I'm sorry, for the amendment to the rules? No? Okay. So this time, before I proceed to take a vote on this, I would just like everyone to know that the executive committee did vote to endorse this for approval to the House. So this time, since there are no further comments to be made, all those in favor of the proposed, in favor of the report and recommendations of the committee on the standards attorney conduct on amending Rule 1.16, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, one abstention. Please make sure, Marcella, just to send an email on that. What about online? Okay. Okay. It'll be noted, but please also make sure you send an email as we described earlier so that is recorded. And it looks like online we are good to go, so this motion carries. All right, so now we will proceed to the second one. And so for this, may I have a motion to approve the report and recommendations of the Committee on Standards Attorney Conduct on amending Rule 3.4, Fairness to Opposing Party and Counsel? Is there a second? Okay, so at this point, is there anyone who wants to speak in favor of this? Anyone on the phone? Okay. All right, so now we'll move to, we'll move now to someone who will speak in opposition to it.
Okay.
And you've already introduced yourself, so
Yes.
proceed to your
Yeah,
comments.
I'm just going to ask that the final slide that Mr. Walker was referring to be put back on the screen so people can see what I'm talking about. Not the 4.1 back. Yeah, that one. Thanks. So I rise in opposition to one sentence of this modification, which is the fourth bullet point down, which basically says that a lawyer speaking to an unrepresented party can ask, who has been subpoenaed for something, usually in the course of an investigation, may ask to be present at any interview by another party as long as the lawyer discloses his or her presence is not required. So the idea that as a lawyer who represents lawyers in situations like this and advises on it all the time, and who for the last 35 years has been involved in lots and lots of internal investigations where employers have lawyers, the employees don't, and the employers and the employees don't always have consistent interests. I'm concerned by adding this requirement, which, by the way, no other jurisdiction has. It's not in the ABA model rules. It's something that we are putting in for the first time. And I think it is ill-considered and ill-advised because there are two reasons. One is you're talking about a situation here where we have rules like Rule 4.3 that are designed to protect a lawyer, a client, from a lawyer speaking to them. And an unrepresented client is supposed to be protected. So here, instead of dealing with this in 4.3, we decided to deal with it in Rule 3.4. And Rule 3.4 is really supposed to protect your adversaries. So here it comes, we're in a situation where we're basically saying that a lawyer who is representing an employer can speak to an employee who's not represented about an ongoing investigation in which the employee is being asked to testify. Now, we've already decided that we can allow them to say that you can't tell them to refrain from voluntarily giving information. And we've already agreed to say that you can inform anyone of the right not to be interviewed by another party. All of that's fine. But where it goes too far, in my view, is where we start to say that a lawyer for an employer can tell an employee who is not represented, can ask that employee to be present at the interview that they're being asked to conduct. And that may be fine in some situations where the employer and the employee are on the same page, but it's not fine in a situation where the employee and the employer may have differing interests, such as when the employee knows that the employer has done something wrong. The employer's lawyer wants to be at the interview as a way of deterring them from doing that.
Ron, can you conclude your remarks,
Yes,
please?
so I am saying that this requirement, which is not bound by conflicts, not bound by any conflicts rules, no indication of the situation, which could be very different in some circumstances than in others, this should not be part of a rule. It should not be part of a comment. It should be maybe the subject of an ethics opinion, but no more than that. We should not generalize this and not allow this in all circumstances.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I would move to amend the proposal by taking out that particular sentence.
Okay, once we hear a couple other speeches, then wait, we're not ready for that yet. As I said earlier, we're going to hear substantive comments first before we move to procedural. So just hold on that for a
Thanks.
moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Jai Chandrasekhar. I'm with the New York County Lawyers Association, but speaking only for myself individually. I agree with everything that my friend Ronald Minkoff has said. I would just add, from my perspective, in my day job, I'm a plaintiff's lawyer, so my firm is always conducting investigations of corporate wrongdoing. And what Ron said is absolutely spot on, that this will deter former employees of companies who have information about wrongdoing by their employers from speaking to plaintiff's counsel. And for unrepresented persons who are not legally sophisticated, having a lawyer tell you, I want to be present when you talk to someone else, will absolutely have a chilling effect. And people will not cooperate with investigations, and it will impede the discovery of the truth by lawyers who are seeking to represent their clients, who are adverse to companies, who are telling their former employees, we want to be there when you talk to the plaintiff's lawyer. So I think it's sort of an end run around the rule against lawyers talking to unrepresented parties. And I speak in opposition to it. And at the appropriate time, I will support the proposed amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak in support of the motion? Anyone on the phone? Okay, since there aren't any other individuals who want to speak substantively, it's now time to proceed with that procedural motion. So, Ron?
I move that we amend the COSAC proposal of Rule 3.4 by removing the next to last sentence of the comment, which is the next to last bullet on the screen.
Okay, the motion has been made, it's been appropriately seconded. I have a question just for Peggy. I just want to know where in the actual task force or in the actual report this is, because you're making a comment based on what's on the slide. Do you know where it is in the actual report so that we can have it appropriately noted what you want amended?
I'll help Peggy out here. It's actually on page 3 of the report. The language is in that the amended language in comment 4. So it's let me see. It's just, I think it's the penultimate sentence in the amended language that's suggested.
Right, it's the next to last sentence in the indented paragraph on page 3 of the report on Rule 3.4 and 4.1.
Okay, thank you. We have someone who wants to speak in support of the motion.
I have a question, if I may.
Proceed, please.
I'm confused. Who is conducting the hypothetical interview here at which the lawyer is asking to be present? I don't quite get that. What kind of an interview are we talking about?
Okay, so
Please clarify. I don't have an agenda. I just want to understand it.
Some other party, someone other than the lawyer who's asking to be present. That's not that, so that it would include obviously the opposing party. I think it actually may also include if there are other parties, other parties somehow involved in the action.
So it could be another lawyer, presumably.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, please.
Madam Chair, Drew Jagla, member of the Executive Committee. Might I ask the presenters for their views on this?
Yes. So at this time, would one of you like to make or address the comment that was made as it relates to the amendment?
Sure. I mean, I think the key thing about the amendment is the lawyer may ask. It's not necessarily the case the lawyer will be permitted. And so, and it is important to say that the presence isn't required. So it's essentially an option, and it is an outgrowth of a decision where they sort of went through the case law and the ethics rules and said, in this instance where someone is requested to be present, there isn't really anything that prohibits that request. It is important, though, that it is a request. It's not necessarily a requirement.
Do you have a concern about this change that has been, this change that's being requested to be made?
Oh, I frankly, personally, I probably care more about the other pieces of it, but at the same time, it's to the extent that we can provide further clarity that there isn't an issue with making this request. We thought that would be helpful.
I'm sorry, that wasn't clear to me. So are you okay? Do you agree with the change, or are you saying that the change is not one that you would support?
No, the amendment to take it out, I would like to include the language in the comment. And so I'm in support of that, of doing that. Frankly, I think it just provides further clarity to the bar. Yeah, so let me full stop there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, let me just clarify. So the question is, wait. So the question is, do you agree with the language being removed? They want to take that out.
Yeah. No, I would like the language to stay. That's
okay. Okay, thank you. All right, we have a speaker for or against the amendment?
It's more of a question.
Okay, yes, please.
To follow up to President
Alcott's,
Mike Ketnick, former president.
Yes.
We don't seem to be paying attention to the word may. And I don't quite understand. I think that needs to be clarified relative to who you're asking and what does it mean may, and who determines you may or you may not. I don't seem to think that there's any clarification of that.
So that is a question to the authors,
Yes,
or is that a
could
question
be-
to
that could
the
be
person who
explained
made the
what that-
amendment?
Actually, it affects both the opposition and being in support. What is the meaning of the word may as to who you're asking for permission? I may or may not. Who is that addressed to?
Okay, may the authors of the report please address that?
Sure. Whoever is conducting the interview, which clearly is a party other than the attorney that's making the request to be present. So in other words, the lawyer isn't prohibited from asking to be present at this interview that's being conducted by another party.
Okay, thank you. You rise again for?
I just want to answer the question because he said he wanted it from both sides to respond to what may means in this context.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, but all I would say is that when an employee gets a response from a lawyer, gets a question like this from the lawyer, it is not deemed like you have a choice. So yes, the lawyer has a choice. The lawyer who's representing their party wanting to be at the employee's interview, and it could be a government interview, by the way, an SEC interview, that lawyer has the option under this rule to decide whether or not to ask to be present. But I guarantee you that the employee is not going to see it as a request. It's going to be a command.
Thank you. Mark, wait one moment. We have two people that would like to make a comment. So since you've already made one, if you could just wait. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Jill Pilgrim, delegate for the dispute resolution section. I'm going to speak for all those who are a little bit confused about where the language is that is seeking to be either removed or retained. When I looked at page 3 of my report, I wasn't clear. So is it only in the comment? And so can we just clarify where the language is? Are we just talking about the comment, or are we talking about a proposed amendment that's actually in the red line to the rule?
Okay, so that is a point of clarification. I'm sorry, can you wait one moment? The movement who made the amendment, he should address that. So Ron.
Yeah, so it is only in the comment. It's, and I'll read the language. It's, the lawyer also may ask to be present at any interview by another party as long as the lawyer discloses that the lawyer's presence is not required. That's the sentence that we're talking about.
And Ron, can you clarify what you're looking to change? Is that what you're looking to change?
I'm looking to take it out.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Take it out of the comment. It's a proposed comment. That's all we're asking here. That's all anybody's talking about. We're not amending Rule 3.4. We're just amending comment 4 to Rule 3.4. And there's one sentence, which is the next to last sentence, that I believe that I'm asking as this amendment to take out.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, Adrienne Koch, Vice President, 1st Judicial District. I have a comment, but I have a point of clarification first. I take it, it says a lawyer may ask to be present at any interview, blah, blah, blah. I take it you're talking about asking the unrepresented party, right? Not asking the opposing counsel who wants to do the interview, correct? Right? You're talking about asking the unrepresented party.
So addressed to the author, can you please answer that question?
In other words, may ask whom?
Because the entire comment is geared toward communications with unrepresented persons, that sentence too would go to the unrepresented person.
Mm. Then, if I may, my comment about it, now that this is being illuminated by my friend Ron's comment, is it reads to me like a suggestion for how to circumvent the prohibition against asking people not to speak to someone. It's like, you can do this instead. You may, here's a suggestion. I don't think, to my mind, and I'm not a professional responsibility lawyer, I don't think that if you took it out, people would think it was prohibited. I do think that it kind of, it puts a thumb on the scale. It reads like a suggestion to me.
So are you speaking in opposition to the?
In favor of the amendment, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I oppose the amendment. It seems to me if we delete that sentence, we are implicitly saying that a lawyer may not ask to be present at the interview, and we're implicitly saying that the lawyer may not be present at the interview. You can't be present if you haven't asked to be present. And I think that's too rigid. This allows for some flexibility. You have two lawyers, if the lawyer is present or is making the request, there'll be two lawyers representing two opposite points of view involved, and I have confidence in COSAC, which has spent a long time thinking about this. I think we should leave it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. And right now, there's no one on the line that has a comment or wants to speak in for or against. Okay, just want to be clear. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Marcella. I'm from the Young Lawyers section, and I want to speak in favor of the proposed amendment for all of the reasons that the previous speakers have made. Additionally, because I think there's some confusion on the semantics of this, so I just want to maybe help clarify that in my supportive comments. there is clearly a power disparity between an employer and their employee. So even if an attorney is saying, hey, I don't need to be there, but can I be there? I think the point being made is that doesn't feel optional. That doesn't feel discretionary when you are getting paid by your employer and you want to be a good employee. So I think that is a reason why, and also I want to echo what Adrian said, that if we don't have it, arguably you could still do this, but by putting in that language, it's sort of making a suggestion to attorneys that, hey, this is a tool at your disposal that you can use. It's a way to undermine that obvious power disparity between an employee and their employer and their employer's counsel. That's my comment. That's it.
Thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom before we proceed to the next speaker in the room? Okay. Yes, next speaker at the podium.
Drew Jaglom again. I've been listening to the comments, and I think that Adrian asked exactly the right question. And I'm wondering whether the solution here might not be that we revise that bullet to say that if a lawyer wishes to be present at an interview by another party, the lawyer may request that of the other party, as long as the lawyer discloses his or her presence is not required. Presumably somebody who is doing an interview of an employee is represented or is a government official or otherwise capable of assessing the request, and that removes the implicit pressure from a company lawyer asking an employee to be present. And so I would ask whether that might satisfy everybody, and if so, I would ask that we make it a friendly amendment. If it does not, then my view is we should remove it and ask COSAC to consider a different approach.
Thank you for that. We will deal with procedural motions after we finish dealing with this motion. Yes.
Norman Effman, Vice President, 8th Judicial District, member of the Executive Committee. What concerns me most about leaving in the language as it presently exists, a lawyer may ask, is the lawyer's obligation to his actual client, and the actual client say, why didn't you ask? Does it expose that lawyer to some sort of malpractice lawsuit? Is he negligent by having an option that he doesn't take advantage of? So I think you're creating many, many issues with respect to effective assistance of your client or vigorous representation of your client by leaving it as an option which your client can then use against you if it goes south.
Okay. Thank you. So we've had sufficient back and forth on this topic. Is there a motion to call the question on the amendment? Is there a second? Okay. Thank you. So at this time, do we have a poll available for the amendment? Okay, just wanted to make sure we had a poll for the amendment for those who are on Zoom. All right, so at this time, all those who are in favor of the motion, and Ron, can you please stand just to restate what the motion is for the record?
The motion is to remove the penultimate sentence of the proposed comment 4 to Rule 3.4.
I'm sorry, it should be not the point, it's not in the PowerPoint presentation. Where is that change in the report?
It's in the report.
on
Oh,
page
I'm
3.
sorry. I'll be even more explicit. I'm asking to change the penultimate sentence in the indented proposed comment on page 3 of the memorandum to Executive Committee, re-comments on Rule 3.4 and 4.1.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of this amendment to the motion, please please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes, it's amended. Oh, sorry, the poll, thank you. It passed, okay, thank you for that. Okay, so it's passed with Zoom and it's passed in the room. All right, so now we are returning to the main motion with the amendment. Is there any further discussion on the amended proposed comments to COSAC Rule 3.4, fairness to opposing party and counsel? Are there any speakers for the amended motion? Any speakers against the amended motion? Anyone on Zoom? Okay. So now we'll proceed to a vote on the amended motion. All those in favor of approving the recommendation of the Committee on Standards and Attorney Conduct on amending Rule 3.4, fairness to opposing party and counsel, with the amendment that was just described and removing that sentence from the report, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. It passes. I should note that the Executive Committee did endorse it without the amendment. Okay, so now we will move on to our next speaker. That would be Ms. Lindsay Foyer from the Trust and Estates section.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay Foyer. I'm an attorney at McGuire Woods. I am also a co-chair of the Legislation and Government Relations Committee of the Trust and Estates Law section of the New York State Bar. I'm here today to discuss legislation A3381, which seeks to add SCPA 1510 to establish a mechanism to prove a lost or destroyed trust.
Lindsay? Lindsay, can you
sorry?
just hold for one moment? I'm sorry, we
Yep.
don't have the presentation up yet. Is there?
I don't have a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. All right, so we're good to go with her? Okay, please proceed. I'm sorry.
Sure. So since many people in the room don't deal with trust on a regular basis, I thought I'd start with the basics. What is a trust? A trust is a legal arrangement where one person, the trustee, holds and manages property or money for the benefit of someone else, which is the beneficiary. There's three main roles. There's the grantor or the settler, which is the person who creates the trust and puts the assets in the trust. There's the trustee, the person or institution in charge of managing those assets. And then there's the beneficiary, which are the people who benefit from the trust. Trusts are most often used to make sure that assets are used in the way that somebody wants. For example, for a child's education, to avoid probate, if it's a trust created under agreement, and to reduce taxes or protect assets is another way. There are two broad categories of trust. There's an inter vivos trust, which is also known as a living trust or a trust created under an agreement. And there's also testamentary trusts, which are trusts created under someone's will and come into existence upon someone's death. This proposed legislation is only concerning lifetime trust or trust created under agreement. That's because there's already a mechanism in SCPA 1407 for lost or destroy wills, which would also govern testamentary trusts and trusts created under those wills. So a lifetime trust is a trust that's created when a person is still alive. It's created by the signing of a written trust agreement, which basically sets forth who the trustee is, who the beneficiaries are, and how the property should be managed or distributed. The trust comes into existence when the agreement's signed and it can be funded immediately with the person's assets. Because it's established during life, it generally avoids probate, and the trustee can continue to manage the property after the creator's death. Trusts under agreement are becoming much more popular these days. More and more people are using a trust under an agreement or an inter vivos trust for their estate planning as a way to avoid probate for their family upon death. As you can imagine, since these are written instruments, they could easily be destroyed, they can be misplaced, they can burn in a fire, etc. Things happen. And oftentimes we'll only have an unsigned copy of a trust agreement or other extrinsic evidence of a trust agreement, along with a bank account, securities account, or other type of property that's titled in the name of a trust. So the lost will statute there is a lot, as I mentioned before, there's already a statute for lost wills, which is SCPA 1407. And that basically provides a path for admitting a lost or destroyed will to probate. if certain conditions are met. It's important because it ensures that decedent's intentions and wishes are carried out, even though they can't find the original will. So this proposal to add SCPA 1510 is similar to that in lots of respects, but it's going to apply to lost or destroyed trust created under agreement only. This is an important statute because it's important for us to have a mechanism so we can respect the grantor's wishes. It's essential that the assets of a lifetime trust will be continued to be held in trust and administered for the beneficiaries, even if the existence of the actual trust instrument, the original trust instrument, can't be found. Even though we don't have an actual statute on the books just yet, we do have case law, which has consistently held that in the absence of an executed original trust instrument, that will not prevent the finding of a valid trust. And so in those cases, you must establish the designated trustee, the beneficiary, clearly identifiable property, and that the delivery of the property with the intent of vesting title in the trustee, and that it's intended to be trust property. And so the proposed legislation is essentially codifying the existing case law. As you'll see in the proposed statute, under 1510(1), the lost or destroyed trust may be proven if you can establish that the trust was executed in accordance with New York law, has not been revoked, and that all of the provisions of the trust are established by either a copy or a draft, or in the absence of a copy of a draft, by establishing the trustee, the beneficiaries, the dispositive provisions of the trust, and that the identifiable assets were transferred or held in trust. And then you'll also see there are certain presumptions to aid the party seeking to prove a lost trust. And these are important because unlike a will that can be revoked by physically tearing up the document with the intent to revoke it, in most lost trust cases, there are assets that are titled in the trust name, but we just don't have the original signed agreement. So therefore, it's presumed that if the trust was revoked, then the settler would have also retitled the assets. And so that's why we think that that presumption would be really, really helpful. The statute also provides that the person seeking to challenge the trust's validity has that burden of proof. And then finally, 1510(5) sets forth the necessary parties to the proceeding, which essentially includes anyone who might be interested in the trust. And if there's a charitable trust, then the Attorney General's office as well. So, we support the Trust Estate section supports this proposed legislation, and we hope that everyone here will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Are there any questions?
Good morning, Daniel Murata, Richmond County Bar Association delegate. You said that the proposed bill applies only to inter vivos trusts, and as you mentioned, 1407 of the SCPA would govern lost wills and presumably testamentary trusts. So I have a question, which is, why does subdivision 5 require a process to be served on fiduciaries of the settler's estate or the beneficiaries of a will?
Because in the event that this trust is not established and it's not a trust, then one of the options would be that the assets, if they're titled, would then fall into the person's estate.
Okay. Are there any questions from participants on Zoom? Okay. Before we proceed to getting a motion on this report and recommendation, the EC endorsed the report and recommendations for adoption by the House. So at this time, is there a motion to adopt the report and recommendations of the Trust and Estates Law section on a legislative proposal to address the matter approving a lost trust? Is there a second? Thank you. It's been appropriately moved and second. Any further discussion? Anyone online? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we are moving to a vote. All those in favor of adopting this report and recommendation, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Excellent. So we are still on track. because our next and last report is an informational one. And so, oh, I'm sorry. And then online, it looks like it passes too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will proceed with David Cohn, who I did see earlier, who is going to do a report, information report concerning the criminal justice section.
Afternoon. I think it's now afternoon, and that means that I stand between all of you and lunch, so I'm going to try to make this short and at least a little bit entertaining. So I'm here to give a little update on the criminal justice section. I'm David Cohn. I'm chair of the section, became chair this past June and succeeded Leah Nowatarski, who we all know, who did a wonderful 2 years as chair. Next slide, please. This is just to introduce you to our leadership. We have 4 officers, and Nigel, Natasha, Courtney, and myself. I could not do anything without all of them, and of course, Leah is the immediate past chair. Next slide, please. So this is really a shout out to what NISBA has done with the new membership model. Our latest data shows that we have 1,908 members of the criminal justice section, and I'd like to note that a year ago, November 2024, we had 1,242 members, and in just the month of September 2025, we had 83 new or rejoining members. So we are growing, and we're proud of that fact, and we want to do what we can to continue to grow and continue to retain our members. Next slide, please. And just to give you a little snapshot of who we are from all walks of the profession. We have defense attorneys in private practice. We have defense attorneys who are public defenders. We have people who are working for agencies such as the New York State Defenders Association. On the prosecutor side, we have people from district attorneys' offices. We have representation from the Attorney General's office and from the Prosecutors Training Institute as well. And we have judges. We have active and retired judges in our section. So we try to represent the swath of the profession and come together to try to make good proposals to help the system. Next slide, please. And just to give us a little snapshot of our recent and upcoming events, we recently had a hybrid in-person and virtual fall meeting, which thankfully, believe it or not, made a little bit of money for the section. So we're very happy to say that. We did an update on the criminal discovery laws that were recently amended this past summer. We did a presentation on what DEI in the criminal justice space means today. And we had a very interesting conversation with the president of the Law Society of England and Wales, who is a criminal defense lawyer in that jurisdiction. This is online, I believe, and I urge all of you to check out this program. Of course, it's free to State Bar members, and it's a great program, so we encourage all of you to check it out. We are planning a great program for January 2026 as well, and you can see some of the details, and we're going to post those on our LinkedIn page as well. Next slide, please. So this is the highlight of what I want to share with you all today, and this started under Leah's tenure. We recorded a video series with help from John Rogers here at NISBA, and we want to introduce people, criminal law practitioners and others, to the criminal justice section. We want to talk about our interest in criminal law and our interest in bar work. And I want to share with all of you the first in that series of videos. It's very well produced. I hope you will find it informative and entertaining. And can we roll the video?
Fundamentally, I think criminal law is the most interesting area of law. It's about justice, it's about truth, it's about getting a fair and just result. And I think, in general, most people think that because Law and Order, it's been on TV for who knows how long. Do they have a TV show called Mergers and Acquisitions? No, they do not. they have a TV show called Trust in Estates? No. So I think fundamentally for humans, criminal law is the most fascinating area of law.
Well, criminal law is important, of course. There's a Constitution of the State of New York. There's a Constitution of the United States of America. When a defendant is charged with a crime, they have rights. And it's my job, of course, as a defense attorney, to make sure that that they're afforded their rights as is provided underneath those constitutions.
The importance of criminal defense practice is that it provides the accused with someone who can advocate for them and represent them against the powers of the government. And especially with some of the things that are going on today.
Our criminal legal system is the due process for people accused of engaging in crime. And it's intentionally designed to protect the individual liberties of people with the understanding that doing so protects all of us.
You need to have people who are with you standing up against the government. And public defense specifically, because, folks in our community who do not have the means to afford to hire an attorney should be guaranteed one, right? That is what the Constitution says.
To me, a person who's accused of a crime, and I spent 30 years, cumulative 30 years as a prosecutor, but I believe with that then and now, when you're accused of a crime, that is probably the most devastating things that can happen to you. Guilt, innocent, is the most devastating thing that can happen to you. So it's important that a defendant who's accused of a crime has all of the rights that he or she is entitled to.
As a prosecutor, it's my job to seek justice for victims of crime on behalf of the people of the state of New York. I believe in accountability, and more importantly, I believe in public safety. It's the job of the prosecutor, whatever that measure of accountability is, to ensure that that accountability is fair, that it's measured, that it's appropriate, and that it fits the crime. To me, that's what the criminal law is all about. That is the job of the prosecutor, to keep and ensure that our criminal justice system works effectively and for the people of the state of New York.
I think there's a lot of importance to the criminal defense as a whole and public defense in particular. I think it's a great profession for someone who both loves the law and wants to help people. We do that every day. We interact with our clients daily. We are there for them in the worst times of their lives, help them through it. But we also push back against government overreach and violations of the Constitution. We're the ones who are responsible for bringing this to the attention of a court who can then act on it. So it's a very important profession in my view. It's also a very rewarding one. Our clients really value us. I'm in a small county, so some of the people that I've been representing, or that I represent, I've been representing for 15 years in some capacity. And they know me, they trust me, and it's good to be there for them when they're in their time of need.
Criminal law is important because for every criminal case, there's a victim, and victims and the public deserve justice. And the defendant in a criminal case deserves to be treated in a just and fair way. And criminal law affects people's lives in a real way. And that's why it is important and should be important to each and every one of us. And everyone who works in the criminal justice system, whether you're a prosecutor, a defense attorney, or a judge, you have an important role to play in the system and in making sure that it works in a fair and just way for all involved.
It's like a project, okay? It's not, you don't just go in and get another file and do the same old thing every day. Every case is different. So there are
So you can catch the rest of that by asking David for the link. We got a nice teaser. All right, so David, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
So we can move to administrative items, please. So while those slides are loading up as it relates to administrative items, the first one is to let you know about the revitalization of the Conference of Bar Leaders. The Committee on Bar Leaders has relaunched this conference, and there will be a fall meeting that will be happening next week. I know it's coming. A little further down. Are we there? All right, here we go. Here's the slide with the location. The theme is Connecting Generations, Engaging, Recruiting, and Retaining Lawyers Through Their Careers. Here's the agenda. It is a half-day program. We have 3 different sessions. We've invited bar leaders, those of us who are bar leaders, as well as our colleagues that are in the ABA, to join us in sharing strategies around connecting generations, younger, newer lawyers with more seasoned lawyers. I'm embracing the Ageism report. From first impressions to last impressions, how do you retain members? And then passing the gavel, how do you make sure that you're transitioning from one leadership team to the next without there being any hiccups? It'll be followed by a reception, and we are going to also restore the Innovation Award ceremony. And so you're going to get a sneak preview of who the award recipients are. So for the large bar, the recipient will be the Suffolk County Bar Association. We have Judge Leo in the room, who is the president of Suffolk County, for their program on educating members of the community, as well as lawyers and judges and folks who are helping those who are dealing with opiate addiction. So this is a nice connection to the report that we just passed earlier today. And then the second winner for our smaller bar is the Asian American Bar Association of New York. And their program, their annual program on wellness, which they actually do in partnership with us and some other bar associations in the city, is going to be recognized. You can still RSVP for the reception if you don't want to attend the full seminar, but come out and support. Again, it's on October 29th. The reception is 5:30 to 7:30 at the City Bar. And then just a closeout reminder, just piggybacking and amplifying what our president has said. Please save the date. It's a very important milestone for us that will be kicked off next year. Madam President has a number of great programs that are dealing with some of the really important issues that we are concerned about as a community. So please register, save the date, and we expect to see you in January. Now, with that being said, we do have new business. And so I'm going to ask the Nominating Committee Chair, Sherry Levin-Wallach, to return to the podium. Not yet, Dave, not yet. We're going to do Sherry first.
Okay. So thank you, everybody, for hearing me again. I have a correction to the report that I gave earlier with regard to the delegates to the American Bar Association House of Delegates. It is not yet Michelle Wood-DeGruby, because she is our president-elect designee. It is Taya Grays, our president-elect.
Okay, thank you, Sherry, and let the record please note that. Okay, this time we also have one second new business item that was submitted in a timely fashion by David Quest. So please state your name again and your affiliation. And you have 3 minutes once you do that.
Thank you. My name is David Quist, Q-U-I-S-T. I'm the House of Delegates delegate from the Environmental and Energy Law section. Although I know some of these concerns are shared by some of the members of the section, I offer these in my own capacity. We have had an incredible year, and I think that we've witnessed near constant challenges to the rule of law, including basic attacks on basic constitutional order, on courts, judges, lawyers, and so much more. I commend the leadership, past president and current president, as well as the general leadership for the efforts that they've taken to date. But frankly, I think that the Bar Association needs to be a little louder, prouder, more public in standing up for those things. Rule of law obviously is one of the pillars of our mission statement, and we even have it enshrined on the wall of this very room. So I respectfully submit this association could and should do more to meet the moment. These are unprecedented times. I think they require unprecedented responses. And they present an existential threat to us as lawyers. I'm sure a lot of the folks in this room feel similarly. So what should we do? I don't have any specific answers. I think there's a lot of wisdom and creativity in this association that we can draw on. As I said, I commend leadership for what's been done so far. But we need to be able to publicly stand for foundational principles, explain their importance to the broader public, and actively respond to specific challenges where appropriate. A couple of suggestions for moving forward. We could simply start by joining the 12 state bar associations and 8 other bar associations in New York who signed on to the ABA's collective statement on the rule of law from last March, and to amplify that statement on our homepage, as was done by one of those signers, the Delaware State Bar Association. If association policies prevent doing so, we should re-examine those policies, as well as any other policies that stand in the way of affirmative, active action. We could do better next time and co-sponsor events such as the Rule of Law rally in Foley Square last spring on Law Day. I was disappointed by the fact that we did not join the New York City and County Bar Associations in doing so. We could more closely collaborate with other organizations and associations such as the ABA to leverage collective efforts such as their Rule of Law initiative, and to take a prominent and public stand as reflected on the ABA website. We could more actively participate in longer-term efforts to support public civics education. Our civics convocations have been wonderful, but we need to do more. Those are just a couple of ideas. I'm sure others have more, both here within the sections. I think there's a lot of energy and talent here that we can take advantage of. Thanks.
Thank you. No. Okay, thank you for your comments. We are not accepting any other comments. He submitted his request to make those comments under new business in a timely fashion, and any other comments that would be made would not be considered timely. So I apologize, Hermes. I'm not, you can't say anything. No. Okay. 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 So at this time, our next meeting is going to be on January 16th, which is a Friday in 2026 at the New York Hilton Midtown, the usual location where we do our meetings, and it will also be available via Zoom. It is a hybrid meeting. And so with that being our last item, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All right. All those in favor? All those on the phone? I'm sure they're saying aye too. Thank you very much. And we ended, 2 minutes over time.